Be cool, be kind, be classy. The cupcakes so sweet and sexy. Have fun and enjoy the journey. Or just have a good attorney. No big whoop, no biggie. She lives near New York City. And not just a YouTube show. When you know, you better grab a straw. Learn about the law. It's cool here in the shade. Sipping motions and lemonade. Cool heads will prevail. Kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Oh, Melanie Little is going live. Oh no, where is Melanie? Follow the island's melody. Is a concert within reach. No surprise, she's at Jones Beach. She heard some music far away. Captain Jack Stack Harbor Bay. He sings and his piano plays. Not all sounds are waterways. Speaking Yiddish and Latin, it's not just for Manhattan. It's for Goethe and Meshegas. Ridiculous that insanus. Oy vey, Marcus. Prosecution, that's for schmucks. Be cool, be kind, be classy. My cupcakes are sweet and sassy. And not just a YouTube show. When you know, cool heads will prevail. Kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Melanie Little is going live.
All right, I came in a couple minutes early because I want to test something with you. I want to see if we can modulate the sound a little bit better. So listen to, I'm going to pull this up, chatters, those of you who are here early. This is from earlier, but I just want to test the volume. All right, so listen to him.
The Commonwealth's Exhibit 8.
And now listen to me. Is it closer to my volume? Is my volume closer to his volume?
And I want to make sure your honor is aligned with the exhibit book.
Lamam James says proper modulation. Is that better?
With the numbering.
Okay, all right. Now look at me. I am a cupcake today. I can make everybody happy. Okay, all right. So they're not back yet, quite yet, but let's just see when I have my volume on so that somebody will remember, because you know I'm going to forget. All right, so I've got my volume at 38%. Is better? Is better? Oh, yay. All right, let's see. Let's turn Mark down to 38% as well. Give him a minute to do what he's doing, you know, because I'm not paying him his hourly rate to be here, you guys. But his a bit higher. Oh, really, Michael? Really? You're going to test my skills now? Are you testing my skills? Oh my gosh. To the person in the chat who said, I wish I could send pictures of my dog bites. Please don't. Please don't send me pictures of your dog bites. Please do not email me pictures of your dog bites. I believe you that you got bit by a dog. I believe you that your dog bites look like Officer John O'Keefe's dog bites, but I do not want to see pictures of your dog bites. I can't unsee them. Okay? Okay. Yes, I know. People try and Prince Lover, people send me things. They send me pictures of their dog bites, and I cannot unsee the pictures of their dog bites. And I love that you guys want to communicate with me and send me emails, but I just cannot look at the dog bites. All right, Mark, tell me when you're ready, because we're going to test your volume as well.
I'm good.
All right, so does Mark need to go a little bit louder? Speak,
No
Mark.
one's ever said that to me before. I can assure you of that.
I think I'll just turn you up a little, because I think my mic is a little bit louder than your mic.
Okay.
All right. Okay, everyone. Yay. Lally's got to finish his cigarette. Did you have any other thoughts while we were on break?
No, I mean, to me, none of this even matters until cross. I mean, this is going to be a fascinating cross-examination to see, because they asked for this hearing. It struck us all as ridiculous at the time they did. It struck us all as ridiculous when the judge granted the hearing. And after 4 hours of this, it strikes me as double ridiculous if that's a thing. So, but having said that, they do have a right to be heard. And he says he's got a couple of hours stuff up his sleeve. I mean, it's as a legal exercise, just as a lawyer watching this with no skin in the game, it's fascinating because I can't fathom just what in the hell he expects to do to make a good faith argument that she should be excluded, which again is the ultimate ask here. I think you're silent, actually.
What the duck are we doing here? What the duck are we doing here? Oh, the duck thing got dismissed, by the way, the other day. Did you see that?
I did. Yeah. No, that's very interesting for a lot of different reasons. I mean, First Amendment, witness intimidation. A lot of those ducks said that a certain individual did it, whether, you agree with it or not. And, so there were statements or opinion expressing speech of the belief that somebody committed a terrible crime that allegedly caused people harm, emotional harm. And a court found that was protected by the First Amendment. So we'll have to see how far that logically extends because, it is a district court opinion, but, analytically, you can see what I'm saying here.
Yeah. Did he render a written decision? Because I haven't seen one. I'll have to find it.
And he left the littering charge. So let's see if the Norfolk DA is going to try a littering case for. I can't imagine that they would, but then again, they have the right to.
Look at Hank Brennan's regret. Probably just changed his name on the break. Thank you for the 100. Mark, as stupid as this sounds, I attribute my stopping smoking to you when you referred to Lally and his lawn darts.
No, long darts, not long. NGS. It's bad for your lungs. Long darts.
Oh, lung. LUNG. Quit July 8th. You get all the credit. Oh, congratulations.
Smoking is terrible. It is. We all know that.
As of July, look, he's been not smoking for like 6 months. That's amazing.
Your lungs are pinker for it.
5 months.
Congratulations.
It's hard to quit smoking, apparently, from what I hear. Thanks, Desert Quill, for the 20. I'm going to celebrate again that I've been a member for 1 year, 1 month, and 1 week. Oh, yeah, you did ask if I could make a special cupcake for that. I think in YouTube, the cupcakes, it only goes up to 1 year. I have to see if there's a way I can address that. But I did receive your motion, and it's under consideration. I've taken it under advisement. Thank you for the 20. Celebrating the amazing Dr. Queen Marie Russell and the stealthy Mr. Alessi. This has been stellar. Thank you. This is the first time we're going to see Brennan question a witness, by the way, right?
Yeah.
So this is going to be like his debut, questioning a witness in Texas Prime. Thanks to the 10. Is it possible that Judge Bev is wanting to get her qualified to testify regarding automobile accidents? I don't think that the judge wants that, but what do you think?
I don't think anything. She was asked to conduct a hearing to exclude the witness as it relates to dog bite. She held it. And in the process, the defense has overwhelmingly established that not only is she qualified to talk about dog bites, but she's qualified to talk about, emergency room procedures and observations, as well as, car accidents and whatnot, and injuries associated with that. So this potentially is an unmitigated disaster for the prosecution. We'll see.
And perhaps I submit to you injuries sustained in a fight or a beating, a beat down. Yeah. We're not a result of a car accident, but she could totally just disagree with the medical examiner's opinion that these are not consistent with a fight. And she can say they are consistent.
You mess around with somebody who has all that experience as both an emergency room and a forensic pathologist. As far as criminal trials and medical doctors, that covers almost everything because they see everything. I mean, they triage these injuries, they see them, they diagnose them. And as a forensic pathologist, they try to understand how it happened. I mean, she's really got all her bases covered. So it's kind of ironic that they're trying to suggest she's not really up to the task on anything when she's pretty much up to the task on everything that matters.
Overqualified.
Right.
Look, Bry's here. Hi, Bry. LTL Media. Brian's here. Thanks, says 2 wonderful attorneys fighting for justice. Thanks for everything you do. Thanks for what you do. Did you see that Brian funded a billboard for Enrique Delgado Garcia?
Where on Route 1 is that? I know like Route 1 is like the billboard of, all the Norfolk County billboards. I've seen the Karen Reed one right next to Gillette Stadium, but where on Route 1 is that one?
Thank you for what you do, Brian. I think he said it was over by Gillette Stadium.
I couldn't tell from the picture where exactly that was, but I mean, I'm sure it's close. I mean, that's certainly good proximity.
I'll keep a look here. Athena wants to know what the disturbance was about. I don't know. Anybody know? It did not have to do with anything regarding LG. I mean, people were reporting that TB, we have to talk in like code here. TB left because he had to go pick up his kids at the bus. Had nothing to do with that. So
yeah, I'm not talking about her.
No, me neither. So I don't know what I'm just saying that's not what the disturbance was about. So if anybody knows what it was about, I don't know. No rumor. The only gossip, rumor, and innuendo that we even talk about on this channel is when we play Kathy's channel, which is called Gossip, Rumor, and Innuendo. Otherwise, we like to stick to facts. So thanks, Athena. I don't know what happened, but what had happened was the Commonwealth is going to rue the day they challenged Dr. Russell. The billboard is amazing.
How do you just not like her? I mean, she's so unassuming from what you would think a doctor looks like, the way they act, the way they talk. She's, very down to earth, very folksy, speaks English, so laypersons can understand. That's always a problem with doctors. They speak medicalese, the way some lawyers talk legalese, but she's really just down to earth in her presentation and manner. And
she's not pretentious at all. You know how some expert witnesses can get on the stand and be a little pretentious because they're very smart. She's not. She speaks to lay people in a very, appropriate way. She makes things easy to understand. She's a great witness.
In demeanor. Yeah. I mean, as far as a medical witness goes, she's really impressive and really likable, which, that does count for something.
Apparently the billboard is
a doctor who, looks like she could be your aunt or your grandmother, but is like talented off the charts. And, she's also just, look at her, the first female police officer in this department,
right?
The queen of the ER, a forensic pathologist, a teacher, a fellow in this. And I mean, just a fascinating resume.
And she was at MIT in the 70s. Like she was probably one of the only women at MIT in the 70s too. Okay, so it's right before Gillette Stadium, the billboard, actually closer.
I know exactly where that is.
Okay. Pro Shops.
So that's coming from like the Rentham side, right? Coming towards Boston, I guess.
Hertz parking lot, he says. Hertz parking lot.
You are unmuted.
Judge, we're back on the record on 22-117, the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed. I'll remind the witness you're still under oath.
All right, doctor. Thanks, Joe. All right, Mr. Alessi, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I have Exhibit 10 published, please? Thank you.
I like his
Dr.
demeanor.
Russell, what has been published on the TV screen is Exhibit 10. Do you recognize it?
Yes,
How do you recognize it?
because I've seen it before.
And please describe what it is.
So it is a hoodie, a picture of a hoodie sweatshirt with multiple defects in the arm area.
And have you assessed those multiple defects in the arm area?
Yes, I've looked at them carefully.
And please describe your assessment.
Well, there are multiple small holes in the fabric of the sweater in the arm. And I believe I said earlier 11, but it's a total of 11 for the whole shirt. So there are 9 holes here in the arm, and then in another section there's other holes.
Does what is depicted on Exhibit 10 constitute a pattern in your judgment?
Not specifically, no.
What, if any, conclusions do you draw from Exhibit 10 pertinent to your testimony here today?
Well, with that image, in conjunction with the picture of Mr. O'Keefe's right arm, my conclusion is that he was wearing that article of clothing when he was attacked.
And how do you reach that conclusion?
Well, again, the holes, the holes are rather small, which would correspond to holes created by a tooth, or in this case, maybe multiple teeth. And they are in the area of the arm or the area of the body that corresponds with the wounds.
Have you ever in your career, either as an emergency room physician or a forensic pathologist, ever had to assess wounds in which the victim was wearing clothing?
Yes.
How many times would you estimate that you had to, or that you did make an assessment of wounds when the victim was wearing clothing?
Probably over 200 times because the clothing examination is part of the examination conducted by the forensic pathologist in the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office.
And did you, in fact, as a forensic pathology in Los Angeles, make assessments of wounds in forensic pathology with regard to a victim that was wearing clothing?
Yes.
Did you ever make that assessment in connection with dog-inflicted wounds of any kind?
No, I don't think so.
Are you familiar with whether, or strike that. Did Dr. Sporty Bello, in her her autopsy report, make any assessment of the clothing?
Yeah. So I'm sustaining it. You can ask her differently. You can ask it differently.
Did she address it in her report?
Did you see it anywhere? What does that tell you?
Russell, do you recall any discussion in the autopsy report, assessment of the clothing that the decedent was wearing?
I don't recall.
If we showed you the autopsy report, would that potentially assist you in your recollection?
Yes,
Do you have it with you still?
Is
I
there-
do.
Go ahead, you can take a look at
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Bless you.
Thank
Let me see. Is there a particular location you'd like me to?
you. Your Honor, I am not able to answer that question because I
Okay.
can predict what the response may be. So
So
I would
just-
like to,
Okay.
but
Go
I,
ahead and take
Okay.
a look at it. And if you can't
Okay.
answer the question, you can't answer the
Yeah,
question.
yeah, I do recall what she meant. She said that the body is clad with a pair of socks.
right. Did she make any other assessment of,
Where are the socks? We never heard anything about the socks. I've been saying this from the beginning. Officer John O'Keefe was a shoe taker offer. He took off his shoes when he went into his own house. They wanted to convict Karen because she didn't take off her shoes. Therefore, she's guilty. She knew he was dead. Where are the damn socks? I say from the beginning, he went into that Albert house. Nicole said, people come in the front door. They take off their shoes. There's a place where they take off their shoes. She's a cleaning freak. She probably insisted people take off their shoes, especially during a blizzard. If he had socks on his feet and he went inside that house, there'd be dog hair all over his socks.
I don't
Tell me I'm
remember
wrong.
the first trial. What happened to the socks? Was there no discussion of socks?
There was no socks ever entered into evidence with the clothing.
Or was there
All they had,
cross-examination about any of this? Like where are the socks?
she's saying it's in the autopsy report. We never saw the autopsy report. She
No,
just
no,
told us now.
But I mean, on cross-examination of the ME or anyone else, there was never any discussion.
Nope.
Obviously, he had socks. Where the hell are the socks?
Right.
Somebody took the socks.
We saw it in photos, and I remember seeing it in photos, and I said, why is nobody asking about the socks?
This
Those
never-
socks would have had dog hair on them.
Clearly, or That's
I
the
don't have a
theory.
dog. So do you have a dog? Do you have dog hair on your socks?
I have dog hair everywhere. Okay.
Mhm.
I have 2 dogs and there's dog hair everywhere. Now, German Shepherds, yeah, they shed. Maybe not like labs and lab mutts like in our house. But real quickly, because I don't want to hold this up for everyone, there was no testimony. I just don't remember at the first trial,
No,
even brought
because
out
I
by
kept,
the
I kept
defense.
screaming about it. I remember screaming about it. Where are the socks? Where are the socks? Nobody's even asking about the
That's
socks.
surprising that the defense would not have. I just don't remember that. And now it's out there. That'll be a big issue going forward for sure.
Mhm. If anybody can correct me, if anybody can correct me that it was brought up somewhere during the trial, please bring it to my attention because I was there
So
with you guys every
at
single day.
some point, if he came into the hospital with socks,
Mhm.
somebody had to remove the socks. They presumably are maintained with his possessions, which are given to, I don't know, in a sealed bag to the state police, maybe.
Mhm.
Where the hell are the socks?
Never logged in ever. And this
Wow.
medical examiner says he was clad in socks. She says that's the only clothing that the medical examiner mentions in her report.
Flag that with a double asterisk going forward.
Yep.
That's
Put a pin in it. I've been screaming about this since the last trial.
and and who are the witnesses who could answer that? Probably Proctor and Buchanan.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Clothing in the autopsy report, particularly with the arm of a hoodie. Take your time.
She'll keep looking and looking and it won't be there. Because this medical examiner did not take the clothing into consideration.
Since the report's in evidence, if you want to. Since the report's in evidence, if you want to suggest a page, you can.
Oh, thank you for letting us speed it along, Your Honor.
You might be suggesting a negative, Your Honor.
Okay.
He's suggesting a negative. It's not in there.
Is there any objection to just answering this question? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, just
Right.
stipulate. It's
Go
not-
ahead and suggest the answer to her.
Is it correct that the autopsy report does not contain any assessment
Well, she may not
of
know.
the clothing as being relevant to a nature and source of the wound of the deceased?
I reviewed the autopsy report very thoroughly, and I don't recall any
Except for the socks.
description of this.
Thank you for the leeway, Mr. Brennan, in Your Honor. Now let's, if I could, Your Honor, publish Exhibit 11.
Okay.
Thank you. Do you recognize Exhibit 11?
Yes,
What is it?
it's the back portion of the same hoodie.
Same hoodie. Did you assess the back portion of the hoodie as depicted in Exhibit 11?
Just by the photograph.
Yes.
Yes.
Did you reach any conclusions with regard to Exhibit 11?
Nothing.
Was there anything relevant that you determined from Exhibit 11?
Not going through and through.
Not that I recall was significant.
And was Exhibit 11, in your judgment, necessary, assessment of it necessary to render the opinions and conclusions you have testified to here today?
Well, you should. I mean, the person should look at all the evidence, yes.
Right. And so after having looked at Exhibit 11, what is your conclusion as to whether it informs the question of the nature and source of the injuries?
It doesn't help.
With regard to Exhibit 12, Your Honor, if I may have
Okay.
that published. Do you recognize Exhibit 12?
Yes.
What is it?
So this is a close-up of one of the holes that is on the right sleeve of that hoodie. In the, in the part that you can see from the anterior view.
The anterior view, but is it the anterior or posterior of the arm?
It could be it could be posterior because you only get it depends on how it's worn basically and how the material lies, way it's photographed. So I meant anterior view meaning the picture, the first picture we saw, which was the anterior view of the hoodie.
What assessment did you make, if
Well-
any, with regard to Exhibit 12?
Well, it's a small hole. It is consistent with a puncture created by a small object such as a canine tooth. And it appears that some of the fibers are actually pointed outward. Some of the clothing fibers are pointed outward from the wound, from the hole, rather, from the hole.
Yeah, teeth came out,
And
in and out.
did you draw any conclusions with regard to this exhibit?
This exhibit, plus close-ups of some of the other similar holes with the fibers pointing out, means that whatever inflicted that hole also came out of the hole.
You say whatever inflicted that, did you reach a conclusion as to what inflicted that hole, or as you've referred to it as defects previously?
Yes, these are consistent with dog bites.
If we could publish, Your Honor, 13?
Okay.
Thank you. You recognize 13?
This image,
Yes.
yes,
What is it?
similar to the other. It's just, it's in a different location on the arm.
Did you make an assessment of what is depicted in Exhibit 13?
Yes,
What assessment did you make?
I believe this was inflicted by a dog tooth, a canine tooth. And again, the fibers are pointing outward.
Fibers are pointing outward.
How did you make that assessment? How did you reach that?
This is bad.
Well, it's generally
really bad.
small and round.
I mean, it's good for the theory that he was bit by a dog, for sure.
That's
Bad
what I
for
mean.
Brennan.
Yeah, this is bad.
I mean, this is what she does. This is how experienced she is. Where are
The
the
problem
signs?
for them is it makes sense, and
Mhm.
they're working on a reasonable doubt standard here, and you're never going to be able to exclude this,
No.
beyond a reasonable doubt. It's just not going to happen.
And Dr. Scordi-Bello on cross. Dr. Scordi-Bello, did you examine the clothing? Did you factor the clothing into your examination?
Nope. And she couldn't even tell you it wasn't a dog bite anyway. I mean, she's basically not effective or impactful on this analysis one way or the other.
Nope. And I've had experts on my show, and including like Ed Wallace, who says like the clothing is so important to crime scene investigation and to what happened to the victim. The clothing is one of the most important pieces of evidence.
The other thing is this, the benefit of having an expert like this, it's not just for her to testify to this, but she's a resource to the lawyers on how to think about issues and cross-examine prosecution witnesses, such as the medical examiner, about all of this that she didn't do, and would this have been important, and and you didn't do it. So again, this witness is going to be just a complete wrecking ball for the prosecution. She's going to harm them in so many different ways, not just with her own opinion about dog bites, but for what the Commonwealth's own experts did not do or did not consider before reaching any opinion that they have.
Right. Right. Aiden says, remember, Hank Brennan wrote this. He thought it'd be a good idea. Yep. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, he did. It's fantastic. It's going to broaden her testimony by like 3 days. She can be on the stand for 3 days during the retrial.
So, and the canine teeth are the teeth that stick out the most when a dog bites. So this is consistent with a canine bite.
Mm-hmm.
Your Honor, may I have 14 published?
Yes.
You recognize what is depicted on Exhibit 14?
Yes.
What is it?
It's a similar wound on the arm area of the hoodie, but this wound had hole, similar hole, except it's a little larger in one dimension, and given that cloth has some stretching capabilities, And there was movement between the victim and the dog. The stretch was caused by the tooth
How did you determine there was some movement in the victim and the dog?
because he was alive and when these were inflicted. And it is normal behavior to move. And also just the configuration of the wounds we discussed earlier, there was some movement around the elbow area.
Your Honor, may I have 15 published?
Yes.
Thank you.
He was
This
alive
is-
when he was attacked by the dog. He was alive when he was attacked by the dog. Was he alive when he was put outside? Maybe she'll even get to that.
Recognize-
This is just clubbing. I mean, is he going to go over every single hole and
I
do
hope
this?
so.
Yes.
How do you recognize?
What it appears he's
Well,
doing.
it's, how do I recognize it? Because the clothing pattern is very similar to all the others. I saw this previously. And again, it is a picture of the sleeve of the hoodie,
Which sleeve, right or left?
right sleeve.
Please continue.
And it has a hole. This hole is longer than it is wide. And, but yet it still is consistent with a tooth entering through there.
And what conclusions, if any, did you draw from what is depicted in Exhibit 13?
That this was part of a dog bite.
Mm-hmm.
And just so the record is clear, are all of these holes or defects, as you refer to them as in the hoodie, are they all on the right arm?
Yes.
So let's go to.
All on the right arm.
Or excuse me, Your Honor, may I have published Exhibit 15?
Remember
Yes.
Mother May I? Mother May I? It was like a game like Red Rover.
Is that a
You
shadow or
recognize that?
coloration?
Yes.
in-
What is it?
No, it's the same one.
Bloodstain. I don't know, down here?
May I have 16 published,
Oh,
Your Honor?
right next to the hole.
Yeah.
Dr. Russell, do you recognize what's depicted as Exhibit 16?
Yes.
What is it?
So it's two holes. Generally,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you say there's two holes. Is there anything that is a marker on this picture that shows you that are two holes?
very good. Yes, there are two holes, one labeled number 3, one labeled number 4. They're in close proximity to one another. And number 3 is round, number 4,
You'd
It's
really
a
want to
little
know
irregular.
how big is the dog's
but
head,
generally,
where the teeth would be placed, whether that's one chomp or one, you know,
Mhm.
two fangs, how sized apart they are.
Well, we know the dog was 70 pounds. I don't know if that helps at all, but
I don't know. I mean, there's no scale, there's no ruler here for those. It'd be interesting to see. Does
that's,
that,
you know, measurements. Why?
yeah.
Yes, you're right. Other than some pizza-shaped white pieces of paper, like somebody took some copy paper and just made some, it's not even like proper evidence markers, like that she wrote on with like a flare pen. Over a
is.
year later, by the way.
It's better than the iPhone pictures in the snow, just showing piles of snow with no perspective. What can you say?
round.
Thank you. And what assessment, if any, did you make with regard to what is depicted in Exhibit 16?
I believe that this is consistent with 2 canine teeth penetrating the fabric
You need to know the size of the
How do you
head.
reach that conclusion?
because they're separate. Unfortunately, they're in that image. There's no ruler.
I'm sorry, there's
There's no ruler.
no rule.
No centimeters, or centimeter
No
ruler in
measurement.
that particular image. But
Compression.
but they're reasonably close by, so they could be. And
Could be,
inflicted by 2 canines
Thank
in the same bite.
yes. Thanks.
Same bite.
And what conclusions, if any, did you reach with what is depicted in this exhibit?
One chomp.
I think I just said it.
Say it again.
May I have published, Your Honor, 17?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, fabric could have been bunched up. Good point.
By the way, this is a textbook way on how to do an
Do you
expert.
recognize what is?
Not that everyone doesn't realize that, but this
Right.
is just textbook
Masterclass.
style and substance on how to do this, because it is methodical, and this is just really good.
Right. And it's logical and it's chronological and it's everything is
Flows,
in its order
effective, and
and it's
it's
simple. Keep it simple.
She's doing this in a way that laypersons are going to understand.
Yeah. Well done, Mr. Alessi. Well done.
Mhm.
In Exhibit 17?
In this exhibit,
Yes.
yes.
What is it?
Again, it's a close-up of the hoodie, the sleeve of the hoodie, and there's a defect in the fabric, and there's a label on it indicating it's number 4.
And did you assess Exhibit 17 before today?
Yes, I did.
What conclusions, if any, did you reach with regard to what's depicted in Exhibit 17?
I believe it's consistent with a puncture of the sweater.
And did you reach any conclusions with regard to the cause of the puncture?
Well, taken in totality with the other images, I believe that these are all the result of multiple dog bites.
Your Honor, may I have published 18?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you recognize 18?
Yes,
What is it?
it's another defect in the sleeve of that article of clothing.
And if I could impose upon you, could you go back to 17, please? Your Honor, may I go back to 17
Yes.
quickly? Thank you. Do you know which arm of the hoodie this defect, as you call it, occurs in, right or left?
Right.
Your Honor, may I go now to 18?
Yes.
Thank you. Please continue with your assessment of what is depicted in 18.
It's another defect of the arm, of
In which
the
arm?
right arm of the hoodie. And it's generally circular in configuration. There seems to be fabric fibers exiting the wound.
And any further assessment you made with regard to what's depicted in Exhibit 18?
No, similar to the above, previous.
Did you reach any conclusions as to the source of the whole defect, as you referred to it in, as what's depicted in Exhibit 18?
I believe it is from a tooth of the dog.
May I have, Your Honor, publish 19?
Yes.
Thank you. You recognize, Dr. Russell, what's depicted in Exhibit 19?
Yes.
What is it?
So it's multiple defects in close proximity to one another, circular defects generally, but there's at least 1, 2, 3 in that image.
Did you make any further assessment of what is depicted in Exhibit 19?
I believe these are from the teeth of a dog.
Are you able to tell which teeth of the dog made those defects?
Not exactly.
How is it then you come to the conclusion it is from a dog's tooth when you say that you're not able to tell which tooth?
I didn't understand the question.
In your experience,
Mm-hmm.
are there times where you conclude that a wound is from a dog, but you don't know which specific tooth of the dog that caused it?
Yes.
And do you, okay, thank you. If we could, Your Honor, please publish 20.
Okay.
Thank you. Do you recognize what's depicted in Exhibit 20?
Yes.
What is it?
Again, a picture of the right arm of the hoodie.
And what is your assessment of what's depicted in Exhibit 20?
I see a small defect near, and it's labeled number 6.
And what is your conclusion as to the nature and source of the defect?
I don't really have a conclusion on this one.
Your Honor, could we please publish 21?
Yes.
In their interrogatories, they wanted to know every single, bite,
Do you
what tooth it
recognize
was.
Exhibit 21, Dr. Russell?
So
Yes.
good, he's doing it.
Wonderful cross at
There
trial.
are
against the
2.
jury. You don't think she's a reliable expert, but again, that's not keeping her expert opinion out. We're talking across purposes and what they're trying to establish and what the purpose of a Daubert hearing is.
Yeah, this is totally backfired. I agree. Totally backfired.
defects in the right arm of the hoodie. And there's a ruler. They're about 3 centimeters away from one another.
Did you reach any conclusions with regard to what is depicted in Exhibit 21?
Yes,
What conclusions did you reach?
they're from a dog.
And how did you reach that conclusion?
Because they're consistent in appearance with a defect that would be caused by by canine teeth.
May I have published, Your Honor, 22?
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Russell, do you recognize Exhibit 22?
Yes,
And did you make an assessment as to what is depicted in Exhibit 22?
well, it's a photograph of the right arm of the hoodie with the number 7 label pointing to a particular area.
And
It's a bad
what
photo.
observations do you make, if any, from what's depicted in Exhibit 22?
On this particular projection, I can't really see the defect. So,
Your Honor, may I just quickly go back to Exhibit 20 and 21 for one
Okay.
question with each? Thank you. Which arm of the hoodie is depicted in Exhibit 20?
the right arm,
And if we could please, Your Honor, go to 21? Which arm of the hoodie is depicted in 21?
the right arm,
And if we could go to Exhibit 22, I think you answered, but I want the record clear. Are you able to tell which arm of the hoodie is depicted in Exhibit 22?
well, yes, because I know that the only labels placed on this article of clothing were in the right arm area and the chest. And this contains a label, so this is the right arm area.
How do you know that? How do you know
Because we
that the only labels were placed on the right arm?
Because we saw the overall picture.
May I have published, Your Honor, 23?
Yes.
You recognize what's depicted in Exhibit 23, Dr. Russell?
This one?
Yes, do you recognize that?
Yes.
What is it?
So it's it's a close-up picture of the right arm of the hoodie. And there's a number 7, and number 7 is pointing to a defect, small defect, several millimeters in length on that fabric.
How, if at all, does the ruler in these pictures contribute to your assessment of the defects in the clothing?
Well, they give an overall measurement of the wound, of the holes, the defects, as they currently were when the photograph was taken. But we have to keep in mind that fabric stretches, and when it dries, it contracts. So that has to be kept in mind when making assessments. So the size right at the time that picture was taken could be different than when the injury was inflicted.
Does the ruler help you at all in this photograph or any of the photographs we've seen in determining whether or not a given defect is from a dog?
Yes, they do.
How?
Because there are several of them. The configuration of the collection of the defects are in a certain area, and actually it's the area that corresponds with the area of the decedent's arm where the injuries were. And they're significantly smaller than, for instance, what you would see in a gunshot wound.
Your Honor, may I please have published 24?
Sure.
Thank you. You recognize what's depicted in Exhibit 24, Dr. Russell?
Yes,
What is it?
that's another defect in the right arm, closer to the sleeve or cuff of the arm of that particular hoodie, and it's labeled number 8.
What assessment, if any, did you make of what's depicted in this exhibit?
It's consistent with the dog bite, and fabrics are pointed outward.
Why is it consistent with the dog bite?
Again, the size.
I'm sorry.
The size.
The size? The
Yeah.
size of the hole?
The size of the hole, yes, taken in conjunction with all of the rest of the holes.
All the rest of the holes in the other photos?
Yes, that we just discussed, yes.
Your Honor, may I have published 25?
Yes.
Thank you. You recognize what's depicted in Exhibit 25?
Yes.
What is it?
So it's again, the right arm of the hoodie. It's down by the edge of the sleeve towards the wrist area would be. And it shows 2 defects, one of which is labeled 9. The other one, I don't know the number, but it's labeled.
What conclusions, if any, did you reach with regard to what's depicted in Exhibit 25?
Dog bites.
How did you reach that conclusion?
Again, those holes are consistent with the other holes on the sleeve. They are present on the right side of the body. Now I know, and one has to keep in mind that when someone is wearing an article of clothing, as the person moves, the clothing can move in relation to the arm. So even though that is the cuff area, we don't know exactly where it was on the arm when the bites were being inflicted.
The more you watch this, the idea that they're going to suggest with a straight face that he got smashed in the arm at 24 miles an hour, whatever it is, such to the point that the taillight, shattered, punctured his right arm all over the place, consistent with what you see here and what you see physically on his body in that slash light, but there are no bruises, no fractures, no nothing else. On a beyond a reasonable doubt standard with what you're hearing here, this is...
What are we doing here?
What are we doing here?
Isn't it possible? Isn't it possible that if perchance he was attacked by a dog inside that house, that perhaps if he, stumbled out on his own or fell in the lawn or whatever, people put him out there, they wouldn't have even known the extent of the injuries to his arm because his sweatshirt was on and all they could see was like puncture holes. They would have no idea what lay underneath that sweatshirt unless he was redressed. And so they wouldn't have any idea of the magnitude of the injuries to the arm if they're looking at it from the outside.
Just somebody should do an experiment and just stick their arm out and let a car back up at 24 miles an hour and see if they break any bones or get any bruising, let alone whether they can destroy a polycarbonate taillight, which is, not likely either. I mean,
it could tear your arm off.
It could tear your arm off. It could shatter your arm, bruise it up
Absolutely,
and down.
we shatter it. Yeah, without a doubt.
But the other problem is the prosecution has to destroy this. This can't be, it's not likely. This has to be literally not reasonable. If this is a reasonable outcome, then this case is over.
Mhm.
And with everything else,
Done. Fiend. The end.
I don't know if that made sense.
It did to me.
Okay.
It did to me. He said. It's going to speed this up a
Your
little.
Honor,
He
may
said
I
half an
have
hour.
Published 26.
Sure.
Thank you.
It's going to be repetitive because he wants her to go through every
Recognize
picture.
what depicted in-
it's like 2 hours ago. So one
Right.
thing we're
That
learning
appears to be a similar
is
photograph.
his time estimates are not so great.
Right. It's like when Lally would say, I'll be brief.
Right.
Your
Yeah.
Honor.
But no, this is methodically devastating for
He
sure.
has to do it. He has to go through every single picture. He has to go through every single puncture wound, every single wound on the arm, because they asked for it in their discovery. They want to know, and she's giving it to him right now.
To the prior one, just the exposure appears to be a little different to
Which
me.
arm of the hoodie is depicted in Exhibit 26?
Right on.
Could we briefly go back, Your Honor, to Exhibit 25?
Yes.
Thank you. Which arm is depicted of the hoodie in Exhibit 25?
Right on.
Your Honor, could we go back to 26, please?
Yes.
Thank you. What assessment, if any, did you make of what's depicted in Exhibit 26?
That these were inflicted by the dog.
How did you make that assessment or conclusion?
Because they're similar in general appearance to the other ones on that right sleeve, and they're small in size.
And this is the right arm of the hoodie.
Correct.
Your Honor, may I publish 27?
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Russell, do you recognize what is depicted in Exhibit 27?
Yes, I've seen that before.
What is it?
It's a defect in the chest area of the front of the hoodie.
Oh, what's that from? Oh, maybe the dog jumped on him.
Did you make of the source and nature of what's depicted in that exhibit?
Yes, let me describe it a little bit better. It's labeled with number 10,
Yes.
and adjacent to it, of course, is this big defect.
Would you use I'm sorry, Your Honor, the witness used the laser pointer when she
Yes.
says this?
Oh,
Thank you.
okay. So this is the defect in question, labeled number 10. But adjacent to it, there's this huge defect right over here. It's going this way. And as being an emergency room physician, I recognize that as that large defect as having been caused by the emergency room personnel when they opened up the sweatshirt to have access to Mr. O'Keefe.
So are you saying that there's two different sources of what's depicted in this exhibit, or is it just all from one source?
I believe that they're two different sources.
Can you, with your laser, identify each one and what your conclusion is as regards to the nature of each one?
So this large one here, I believe, is from the scissor wound, the trauma scissors.
In trauma scissors of a medical professional in the emergency department?
Yes, or it could have been EMS personnel also. That's another
Understood.
possibility.
Please proceed to the next.
Yes, but then this other defect is different and it's separated. There's actually solid tissue, fabric between the two defects. This is separate and it appears to have a little bit of a tail type configuration. So this could have been inflicted by the dog.
You say could.
Mhm.
Is it could or is it consistent with infliction by a dog?
It is consistent with, however, there were no chest.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
There's a competing noise out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Trying to see if it was going to die down. Thank you.
There were no chest wounds caused by a dog in that area. So it could have been that the fabric was loose, and as the victim was pulling away from the dog's teeth caught it, but he didn't make contact, or didn't make contact with the skin. So I can't say for sure that this is a dog bite,
Right. So,
a dog-related tear.
so is it correct to say it's inconclusive whether this is from a dog, or is there no conclusion to be reached as to whether it's from a dog?
I don't know the difference.
Okay.
I
I
don't
believe your
either.
answer is sufficient for the record. Thank you, Dr. Russell. If, Your Honor, we could please have published Exhibit 28.
Okay.
Thank you. Do you recognize what's depicted in Exhibit 28?
I've seen this image before, yes.
What is it?
It's the front part of the hoodie, and there are two large defects. The one that's closer to the top of the image appears to be similar to one that would be made with trauma scissors by emergency personnel. The one that is below that, that's labeled number 11, I can't.
Stop your laser because I just want to make sure I understand where you're pointing. You said below that. Can you just hold your laser as to where that is?
On a laser, you want to see what I'm?
If you could point, you said right below
This
that.
one, this, yeah. So this is, the top one is what I believe is caused by trauma scissors.
Yes.
Below that in this image and labeled number 11
Yes.
is a very irregular defect. That's this one right here. and it's labeled number 11. I can't say for sure what it causes.
What causes you to use the parlance irregular? What is irregular about?
Well, irregular means that it's not a straight line. It's not a nice circle. It doesn't have a nice edge to it.
Are you able to reach any conclusions with regard to what is depicted in Exhibit 29?
No.
Your Honor, if I could have published Exhibit 30.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think they were referring to 28.
Yeah, I think that last one was
I'm
28,
sorry.
27 before then. I just thought I might have missed it. So,
No, you didn't. I did. That was my error. Thank
so
you, Mr. Brennan.
29.
I believe we are now on 29. It appears 29 is up. Your Honor, may I proceed?
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Russell, do you recognize what's depicted in Exhibit 29?
Yes.
What is it?
It's an area of the front of the hoodie that is in the front, the anterior of the hoodie. And has two labels showing two different defects, 12 and 13.
What assessment, if any, did you make with regard to what is associated with number 12?
Number 12 is a long defect, and by itself, I can't make any assessment.
Can you
But-
repeat? I'm sorry, please continue.
Yeah, so, but next to, adjacent to number 13, which is another defect that's much smaller, the two of them in combination are suggestive of teeth marks.
Can you put your laser up and down? You said 2. I think I understand.
Yeah,
what
so
you mean. There's 1,
Yes,
and then where's 2?
right here.
Understood. And why do you believe it's suggestive of dog teeth marks?
Well, dogs have multiple teeth, and so multiple teeth can cause individual defects. And the fact that there are two defects in close proximity to one another and oriented in the same direction makes me consider that it's possible that they were caused by teeth.
Let's ask her about the blood stains. Let's ask her if there were any blood, any injuries that produced blood underneath the part where these blood stains were on the shirt, because there weren't. This is the bottom of the hoodie, right? This would be like around his waist, I believe.
Sure.
And he didn't have any injuries that would cause bleeding to his stomach, doctor, correct? So from your medical detective background, where did that blood come from? It didn't come from underneath the shirt. She's an expert in all things.
And are you able to determine a more specific location of where this is on the hoodie?
I might be wrong. I think it's the. No, I can't really say for sure because I don't know if this picture's upside down or not.
So the nature of the picture
Yeah.
does not allow you to make a conclusion that you're comfortable with regard to the location on the hoodie?
Yeah, individually.
Objection sustained to the full.
Understood. Are you able to reach a conclusion with regard to what part of the hoodie is depicted with reference to the 12 and 13 on this exhibit?
Not from this image only.
In combination with any other image, are you able to reach a conclusion as to what part of the hoodie is depicted by 12 and 13?
If we went back to the overall picture, I could try.
Do we need this answer from her?
We do not, Your Honor.
Okay,
I was actually going to the next one. Thank you. Your Honor, may I have published 30?
Yes.
Thank you. You recognize what's depicted in Exhibit 30?
So this is a close-up of the previous picture of the anterior portion of the hoodie.
Previous picture meaning Exhibit 29, the one we were just looking at?
Yes.
Thank you. And how can you determine that from what's depicted in Exhibit 30?
Well, because there are two defects that are close together. They're labeled 12 and 13. And unfortunately, the ruler covers one part of one of them, but still I can see enough of it.
And what's your assessment of what's depicted in Exhibit 30?
They are consistent with being caused by a dog teeth, by dog teeth,
How do you reach that conclusion?
because they're oriented in the same direction and they're close by.
What do you mean by they're oriented, with the laser, what do you mean they're oriented in the same direction?
So they're going, this 12 is going up and down in this image, and so is 13.
And why is that notable to you in reaching your conclusion?
Well, the teeth, causing a defect, would tear along the same plane, the same, they'd make tears in parallel. Same direction.
Any other assessment you make of what's depicted in 30?
No.
Your Honor, may we publish 32?
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. Do you recognize what's depicted in Exhibit 32?
What's that?
Yes.
What is it?
Probably
This
a
is
dog
a wound.
bite. Someone
A
else.
partially healed avulsion wound of a person's
Oh, I
Hand.
don't see that.
between the thumb and the index finger.
Do you have knowledge of whose hand that is that's depicted in Exhibit 32?
I do.
What is the person, do you know the name of the person's hand who's depicted
it was Leslie, Lisa, not Lisa.
Oh, that's
Do you have
Chloe's
knowledge
buddy.
how that wound occurred?
Yes,
How do you have knowledge of how that wound occurred?
because I read a report regarding a dog bite incident.
Oh,
And what did you learn from reading that report about what is depicted in Exhibit 32?
That a dog
okay.
named Chloe attacked another dog, and in the process, the woman whose hand that was bitten
That's
by
Chloe's
Chloe.
dog bite from
Can
2018.
you describe what is shown with regard to Exhibit 32 in relation to dog Chloe?
Well, this is a partially healed avulsion laceration.
From your experience, well, have you seen these types of avulsion wounds either as an emergency room physician and or a pathologist in your 30 plus years of
Stop
practice?
the bleeding, Brennan.
I've seen them
Stop the bleeding.
not infrequently in the emergency room.
Did you say not infrequently?
That's correct.
Is that another way of saying you've seen it frequently?
I've seen them many times in the emergency department.
Is this a wound of someone who is antemortem or postmortem, or are they alive?
This person's alive. This is an anti-mortem wound, and it shows many, many days of healing, maybe even much longer.
Wow.
How can you tell that what is depicted in that exhibit, that wound, has, as you described it, many, many days of healing?
That might take years of medical school to explain, but there's the edges. First of all, it's not bleeding. Second of all, there's what we call granulation tissue in the wound.
What is that granulation?
Well, that's tissue that the body builds up. Oh, yes. So first of all, this most likely did not appear like this when it was first inflicted. What happened was the flap, there's a flap here.
What had happened was, I'm going to slow her down to real time because this is so good. We need to hear it. It's natural speed and cadence.
I need this connected to everything else. I need like the real beyond Chloe's a biter. I need a comparison as to why it makes this more likely.
Well,
Wow.
let's see. Because if this was, once a dog has one bite, they say they don't stop really biting. So let's listen.
That skin was over here to begin with. But then what happened is that it became detached, and that's called an avulsion wound, where a piece of skin is detached, but not completely. So it still remained intact down here. Now, that area in between, so that, of course, skin contracts as it dries, and that area between here and there heals. The body heals itself, tries to close itself off. So it builds up this, what is called granulation tissue, which is basically new tissue to cover the defect so that infection doesn't set in. And that takes weeks, usually.
What is it that takes weeks?
That healing, that extent of healing.
And so is that wound the same as when it was initially made, or is it different from when the wound was initially made?
Very different.
How is it very different from when the wound was initially made?
When it was initially made, this edge here would be sharper. Right now, you can see there's rolled up tissue here, what appears to be rolled, and that's because it's healing. So this would have been sharper, and the tissue down in here would have been bleeding, or it would have had a crust if the bleeding dried.
Are you able from this Exhibit 30 to give a range of when this wound was first made in terms of days or weeks?
Well, I think I did already. I think that it was at least weeks.
At least weeks? Already, thank you.
That's a hell of a job.
Remove that. Thank you very much. Dr. Russell, today you have given various assessments and opinions.
All right, she's wrapping up here.
Yeah.
Have those assessments and opinions been based upon, among other things, your 30 plus years as an emergency medicine physician?
Yes.
And with regard to the same assessments and opinions, have those been based on your 30-plus years as a forensic pathologist?
Yes.
What I want to now move to, and I'm almost at the conclusion of my question for this point, do you recall testifying previously in the first trial with regard to rendering an opinion on whether the source of the wounds in Mr. O'Keefe's arm were caused by a dog or a large animal?
Yes.
And do you recall what your answer generally was
He's popping
in
the
respect
balloon
to a question of where those wounds
before
consistent
Brennan can
with
pop it. He's going to clean it up. Which
Right.
is,
And
of course,
he watched her testimony.
right. Very skilled direct examiner will always do this. Bring out if something needs to be cleaned up before it comes out on cross.
Yeah,
And
get ahead of it.
he's already built her up with all her credentials, and he's going to finish with this and sit down, and this is good.
This is great.
a dog or animal bite?
Yes.
And do you recall what your answer was?
Generally, yes.
And generally, what was your answer to the question of whether the wounds were consistent with a dog or large animal?
Your Honor, may there be a reference to prior testimony? I have no idea.
You have no idea because you haven't watched the trial yet, Hank?
Transcript, date, where it is.
Happy to give it, Your Honor. May I have a moment?
Yes.
Oh, for the love of the traveling Mary. Really, dude? He hasn't watched the trial. He hasn't read the transcript. He's still flying blind? Really?
Attempt at prior consistent statement. There should be some foundation.
So-
Okay, Mr. Brennan, you need to teach Lally, first of all, how to make a trial binder. See these nice trial binders. Do you use trial binders, Mark?
I try to.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's always good to have a trial binder, right? All right, let's hear what Brennan has to say about this. Here's his objection.
Well, we have a moment. I also add, you can understand that this is impeachment, an appropriate attempt at prior consistent statement. There should be some foundation.
So for what purpose are you offering this?
Your Honor, I would first like to respond to the preliminary hearing where you know the rules of evidence are not strictly. The purpose I'm giving this, Your Honor.
That's exactly it. This is not.
It's exactly for her to state, and if you would allow, Honor would allow me to connect up with the questions, it will allow her to state with regard to her testimony today, whether or not the opinion she has formed previously is the same opinion as she has formed. Is it the same?
Okay, so why don't you ask her what her opinion is today?
Yes.
And then just ask her whether it was any different than before. You can pull the page up if you have it. I have it here, I think, so just,
You don't need it.
so do you need it, Mr. Brennan?
Please.
I'm happy to provide it, Mr. Brennan. It is the June 21st transcript.
We watched the whole hearing the other day. We could probably quote it ourselves.
Sure, they have it with them.
I think he does.
Lally
I'm
is
sure he
not-
does because it was an exhibit to the motion. The entire transcript of the first voir dire. We'll give him a moment to catch up. We can catch up while he's looking.
They have it electronically.
Mm-hmm.
Your Honor, I don't want to take up the court's time. If I could at the end.
Sure, I think co-counsel should be able to find it for you. So why don't you come on in and just ask her the question, and I'm sure Misty and Eddie can pull it up.
Misty and Eddie. There it is again. Misty and Eddie.
Your Honor. Dr. Russell, are the opinions that you have given today consistent or inconsistent with the opinions? Well, let me ask it this way. For the opinions that you have given today, How do they compare to the opinions that you've given previously?
I'm not oblivious to the attempt yet. I object. It's not the proper form of questioning to go back to try to explain potentially inconsistent statements.
I'm not oblivious to the
Is
attempt
that what
here.
you're attempting to do?
No, Your Honor, it's not what I'm
All right,
attempting.
so the opinions today, and I guess it's a matter of argument, right? I can be told with the previous, it was attached to the motion that's before.
Oh my gosh, she's a mess. So what were you going to say?
I'm just going to say, let's cut the bullshit. You're trying to figure out, obviously, if her opinion is slightly different and if there's an explanation why. Forget about the rules of evidence here. Let's hear what she has to say and how it relates to whether her opinion is admissible. There's no jury. We all want to hear what the doctor has to say. So why are we getting involved in, whether it's impeaching with a prior consistent statement and this and that? It's important to hear whether her opinion today is different, and if so, why. That should be the judge's critical question. And usually what you'll see is a judge in a pretrial hearing like this say, I'm going to give you some latitude, give me the evidence and what I have to consider, not go back and forth over 20 minutes over semantics of the form of the question when there's no jury, and the rules of evidence are always more lax in a pretrial hearing anyway. That's all.
Jumping through hoops. My freeze game is on point today, my friends. If you haven't looked at the screen in a while, come look at it. Looks could kill. They probably will.
For me today, the transcript was attached. I can see what her previous opinion is, and then I ultimately decide whether it's consistent or not,
There you go. Let's move.
right?
I agree with that, Your Honor.
Right?
Okay,
course I am.
so if you've got a site, I'm happy to look at the page to see if I might be able to figure out where you're going, or you can come to sidebar
Can
and
I come to
explain it,
sidebar
sure.
with it, Your Honor?
I think he's going to say she's expanded her opinion based on there was more time and she got to review more things.
Because she said it was consistent with dog or large animal. Now she's saying dog. Okay.
Right.
So
It's more specific now.
she's going to say that's not an inconsistency. I'm being more specific. Why do they have to have all this? It's not going to make her not qualified.
Alan Jackson's like, really? I took the red eye for this?
Well, that's what they're saying. Like, this is.
I love the way he keeps his cool. I would just,
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't do well in this courtroom. Let's just say that.
If I may have a moment, Your Honor, I'm going to see if I have in fact concluded the questions for
Okay,
this moment.
sure.
Thank you.
Miss Dianetti is trying to stop a laugh.
Alan's sitting over there saying, I could be an In-N-Out burger right now.
Right.
I'm here for this. I could be, having a double-double.
Your Honor, if I may have a point of order question with the court?
I'm sorry?
May I have a point
Point
of
of
order
order.
question with the
Sure.
court? Thank you.
What do
As
I
you
do?
know, she has
Would you like to explain what that is? A point of order question with the court?
Proper procedure. Look, and I know this firsthand, the rules of Massachusetts are very different. It's not easy to know what the hell is going on or how you're, believe me, I know, or how you're supposed to do things all the time. And he's recognizing that he's not on his home court and is asking the court for guidance on making sure I follow the court's order. So
Because he's probably watched other motions hearings where she's like, that's not the way we do it in Massachusetts,
Right.
Mr.
So
Jackson.
he's being a gentleman lawyer. That's all.
He really is. He's like Prince lawyer.
prepared a report. And different jurisdictions do it different in Daubert hearings. Is that something you believe needs to be marked? I was just going to do a brief.
You're not in New York
She
anymore,
has
my
in
man.
fact
Trust me.
prepared one. Sometimes courts
Is there an
require.
objection to me receiving a report and evidence?
Definitely not in Kansas anymore.
I would find it helpful. I won't object, but I do not believe it's admissible and relevant. If the court would like to reference it, I won't object.
So why don't we mark it for identification, and then the two of you talk about it. We'll see how the hearing goes, and if there is, I may
Why
well
would you
want
not
to see
want
it,
the
but
fact
we'll
the
mark
fact
it for
finder
identification,
and
Mr. Alessi, and
person
then
that's going to
later.
make the legal decision on this issue
Okay.
to know everything?
Clearly, I think going to have to come back another day. So,
Clearly, I think we're going to have to come back another day on this. Like tomorrow or like,
A for identification.
we're going to do a whole nother part
The
two?
bench.
You're
She can rule from the bench and say, I'll send you a decision in a week. I mean,
Right.
Thank you.
He's a gentleman and a scholar. Yeah.
Do you need it? Yeah.
Look at Lally. Oh, lally flop, ooh, lally,
Yes.
lally flop. Missed that song.
Dr. Russell.
It's really bad body language, isn't it? It's kind of sad.
Unlike the other exhibits.
It's Baby Shark.
Not yet.
Oof.
Do you recognize Exhibit A?
Yes,
He's in jail. Look at him. That's
that's the
horrible.
report that I wrote.
How many pages is that report?
Posture. Like I'm always telling my kids, sit up straight, sit up straight. Now they do.
The empty notepad. It's open, but there's nothing on
I
it.
forgot she was even here.
Are they not numbered?
They are numbered. I just, the CV is attached as well. Okay, it's 11 pages.
Ipsy Dixit.
Dr. Russell, did you prepare that report?
I did.
Ipsy Dixit. I love Ipsy Dixit now.
Your
My
Honor,
favorite.
I just would like, if I could please note for the record that that report was filed and it's on file with the court as part of our opposition motion. I know Your Honor knows it, but I would just like to note that for the record.
Sure.
Thank you. At this particular point, Your Honor, I have no questions, and I appreciate the court's patience and gracious allocation of time for me to go through these questions with the witness.
Now the hearing begins.
So I intend for us to go until 4 o'clock today, so we'll see how far you get, Mr. Brennan, okay?
Wow.
Thank you,
We
ma'am.
can't work past 4? It is 3:11 here on the East Coast, friends. So we
This-
only have about
And I don't like this. So they stall out for 40 minutes and then they get how much time to think about this.
Right.
I mean, I don't know that's going to make a difference, but I hate when they break up the time in a way where one side gets overnight or several days to kind of review but whatever. It is what
unless
it is.
it works in their favor, like when Trooper Paul, I think was it Trooper Paul? Somebody took the stand on a Friday, then they had till Monday for cross, and that's good. That was good.
Right.
She's only working till 4. This is insane. I've seen trials lately we've been watching where they let the jury deliberate till 10 p.m. and they bring them pizza. Like, this is insane. What happens after 4? Everybody turns into a pumpkin.
Absolutely. It gets cold, dark, and
Good afternoon, Dr. Russell.
Good afternoon.
My name's Hank Brennan. We haven't had the pleasure of meeting before.
is this on,
Mr.
is this
Brennan.
on
I'm gonna
fast
ask you a few
speed?
questions if that's okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can we slow it
You
down
share
to
with us that
regular?
you have an extensive history of experience.
So he sounded like a chipmunk. I was like, step away from the helium tank, Mr. Brennan. That was my fault, you guys. It was on 1.5 speed. Okay.
In the emergency room.
Yes.
And in the emergency room, you see all types of injuries, don't you?
Yes.
You see physical injuries, yes?
Yes.
Emotional injuries,
Yes.
people who overdose, perhaps they're drunk on drugs,
Yes.
Drunk on drugs.
alcohol.
Yes.
So you cover a wide array of different types of treatments.
Yes.
Now, you must have seen a number of broken bones when you were in the emergency room caring for different patients, correct?
Thousands.
Arms, legs, toes.
Yes.
In light of your extensive experience in the emergency room, and looking at all of these broken bones, that doesn't make you an expert in orthopedics, does it?
Emergency orthopedics. Yes.
Have you ever been qualified as an expert in orthopedics?
No, I've
Isn't
never.
orthopedics a specialty in medicine where there is specific training?
Yes.
And people who become orthopedics or orthopedic surgeons, they go through rigorous education specifically to be an orthopedic, right?
Well, orthopedics involves more than just setting fractures or diagnosing fractures. Orthopedics involves things like bone tumors, bone cancers, a lot of other parts of orthopedics, not just trauma. I am an expert in emergency orthopedics.
Is he going to suggest that she's not qualified to
Decided
make that
you are an
opinion about, I would expect to see bruising or fractures because she's not board certified in orthopedics?
No, because she's not board certified or in dog bite injuries. There's no board certification for that.
Right.
You need to be a plastic surgeon or a
Right.
veterinarian.
I think what he's trying to get at here is, who are you to say it would have broken bones or there'd be bruising if he got hit, because you're not an expert on orthopedics. But I think any medical doctor with this kind of thing is going to be capable of giving a medical opinion on what you'd expect to see. I don't think you need to be board certified in orthopedics
Right.
to
To
deal
read
with
an X-ray
when a bone may break or not based on traumatic force. But anyway.
based on emergency room medicine. She knows how to read X-rays. She also said she's a surgeon. We didn't even get into what kind of surgery she does, but okay.
For orthopedics?
Emergency orthopedics.
Emergency orthopedics, is that a specialty that you get a fellowship in, or somehow you are deemed an expert in any way?
It's not a specialty that has a fellowship that I'm aware of.
I see. So you are proclaiming that you yourself think that you're a emergency room orthopedic.
Proclaiming.
I have expertise in emergency orthopedics, yes.
Are you an expert in orthopedics?
The whole field of orthopedics, no.
Jerry's not going to like
And
this.
you don't have any specialized degrees in orthopedics, do you?
No.
You would agree that somebody who's gone through the rigorous requirements of being
You don't get a degree in
an
orthopedics.
qualified, it has
Get a board certificate.
much more experience than that than you. True?
In general orthopedics, yes. I have a lot of experience in orthopedic trauma related to emergencies.
Have you ever been in any court where you've ever been qualified as an expert in orthopedics?
It was never an issue.
But I'm asking you, have you ever been in any court, state, federal, this country, any other country, where you've been qualified as an expert?
She's laughing.
No.
Has anybody other than yourself ordained you as an expert in orthopedics?
I
Ordained
haven't
you?
ordained myself as an expert in orthopedics.
Jerry is
I
going to hate his
have a
pissiness
lot of
towards
knowledge.
medical doctor who's just simply explaining what she thinks. You don't need this tone with her. Even if you can make the point that
Mhm.
you're not credentialed officially in orthopedics, but with the snark and the pissiness for somebody like her, she's not lying.
Mhm.
You can say she's not credentialed or qualified, but usually the snark and pissiness is saved for someone you don't believe is telling the truth. And she's certainly not that.
And here's the other thing. John O'Keefe didn't have any orthopedic injuries.
No,
There were no orthopedic, there were no broken bones.
He's saying, how do you know that matters? This is the wrong tone for somebody like her. There's no reason to come after her. You can make your point, but you probably with her, you want to be more surgical and polite. I mean, you can do it any way you want. You're entitled to, but this is a little aggressive for a credentialed expert who you simply disagree with.
For a Daubert hearing, especially.
For a Daubert hearing.
And expertise in emergency orthopedics.
Has any authority ever recognized you and qualified you as an expert in orthopedics?
No.
Just you.
I haven't declared myself an expert in orthopedics.
Wait,
I have expertise.
Hold on. When she answered that question, no, which ultimately is, what he was trying to get, did he just mutter, "I see"? Is that what he
Let's take
said?
it back.
And then she just chimed in.
We have the rewind button for that.
Has any authority ever recognized you and qualified you as an expert in orthopedics?
No,
Just you.
Just you, he said. Just you.
I haven't
Well,
declared
that's the
myself
thing.
an expert in
That's the same
orthopedics.
point.
Yeah.
There is a pissiness to this that is
Uncalled for.
not wise.
Mm-hmm.
Not to someone like this.
No,
I mean, certain witnesses, I get it, but this is not that witness.
very hostile.
I have expertise.
You've seen a lot of car accidents you shared with us
Yes,
as a police officer
yes,
in the emergency room.
yes,
Perhaps when you were at the ME's office, you saw the consequence of car accidents.
I did, yes.
Are you an expert in accident reconstruction?
Reconstruction, no.
Accident reconstruction. She's a medical
And
doctor.
You see the different people that come in with overdoses, whether it's alcohol or drugs, you treat them, don't you?
Yes,
But you're not an expert toxicologist. are you?
I'm not a toxicologist, no. But toxicology is a part of emergency medicine. So we have training in orthopedic, in toxicology, but no, I am not an
Very
expert in
good.
toxicology.
I'm not suggesting you're unfamiliar with it or you haven't had experience or some training. I'm asking you if you think you're an expert.
In toxicology?
Yes.
No,
And you've shared with us that you agree you don't have any expertise in DNA.
that's correct.
In fact, you know very little about DNA, don't you?
I would say that's pretty reasonable. Yes.
That's what you said.
Yes.
You mentioned that
The
you are
defense, someone's in the comments
generalizing
saying
or
the defense should object. No, they shouldn't. They should let this all come out because she's being honest and credible, and she said what she's an expert in and what she's not. And it's a hearing for a judge making a decision. I wouldn't object to any of this. I'd let him go and be as nasty as he wants and as irrelevant as he wants. Just let this all come out.
Not to mention, this is the first time that they're seeing him examine a witness. And so they're getting a taste for his style, for his demeanor, for his attitude. And the more he talks, the more they're going to learn about him and his style as an attorney, which is also good.
approximating the number of dog bite cases you've attended to in the emergency room relative to civilian dogs or domestic dogs. Is that right?
Yes.
And you've suggested that you probably treated about one dog a week over a period of 27 years. Yes?
Yes.
Which is 1,000 weeks in your estimation.
Yes.
You worked for some of the most busiest ERs. Was there a lot of patients every day that you treated?
Most
Yes.
busiest.
On average, how many patients would you treat in the ER over those 27 years on a daily basis?
Daily, I would think about 30.
So if you're treating 30 patients a day over a course of a week, you consider that in the context of 1,000 weeks. The amount of dog bite cases that you treated in the ER is about half of 1%. Wouldn't that be fair to say?
No, you lost me on that.
I gotta do
sorry.
math.
Well, if you had one dog bite case a week, let's say you had 20 cases a day, 100.
How about you just say it's a minute portion of the visits that
Oh, it
you
could,
get?
yes, yes.
Of the overall patients that you've seen,
It's a very small amount, but in the sheer number, it's a lot though, because she's had
Yeah.
so many.
it's a lot more than your expert that you don't have.
But it's the number of cases, not the percentage that was asked of
Right.
me.
I'm just asking you a question.
Okay. I just want to clarify that.
And so you said how many? 25?
I'm smarter than you.
Patients, yes.
So that's less than 1% of the cases that you treated in the ER relative to dog bites.
Okay, that's reasonable, and that's average, actually.
Now, when you treated cases of dog bites in the ER, you said that you would sometimes have the reporter, the person injured or somebody with them, tell you it was a dog bite.
Yes.
Yeah? And sometimes you had communication difficulties, or there was a reason why they couldn't share it with them.
Yes.
And then you suggested that's how you came to this pattern recognition skill, that you would have to determine the injury with no help from the reporter.
I was always interested in dog bites, and yes, there were a few occasions when I had to use those skills in order to determine what kind of an animal it
Let's
was.
talk about those few occasions. Why don't you share with us a story where you met a patient, if you can recall, where you had no idea what the injury may have been because there was no ability to communicate, and tell us about how you determined it was a dog.
It's story time now.
Well, thinking about a specific case, I can think of cases where I determined it wasn't a dog bite, and it was something else based on the pattern of the bite. And am I not answering your question?
I'm not looking.
He's got to be wandering around because he's too far from the microphone. He's trailing off.
Share with us
So, friends,
the case where
use the captions if you need to.
that was a dog bite, for whatever reason, and then you, based on your pattern recognition skills, determined that it was a dog bite. I want you to walk through an actual case.
He's mocking her skills.
Had with this scenario you presented.
I can't give you a
All right, if you guys can't hear what he's
specific
asking
case
her, he's asking her to give him a story or an exact scenario where the patient could not communicate with her about what happened to them, and she determined it was a dog bite. That's what he wants, a story, and a specific patient that she saw during the course of her long and storied career.
This is not that far removed from talking about the length of a Boston Globe subscription. I mean, it's a little more on point, but are you suggesting that she's just fudging this, that she's just throwing crap out there?
Right.
When you're a lawyer cross-examining, you're going to try to impeach someone, you always kind of make that call, there's a fork in the road. Are you going down the path of like, this is a liar who you're going to get aggressive with? or somebody who you just disagree with is mistaken, is wrong, or an expert who you just, you might go softer. He's kind of going down the liar path.
Yeah.
Which is really shocking. I mean, at least in tone. I don't know if maybe he's just jacked up and doesn't mean to be doing it. And he just needs to, hose himself down. And I mean, it's exciting. I get it. I don't know. But the tone with someone like hers, it's really off.
Yeah. Well, he also is insinuating that, if Officer O'Keefe was alive, he would have told you he wasn't bitten by a dog, but, since he was dead.
It's also a prosecutor, by the way, which is, I know he's not used to that anymore, but, jury's going to give them less, a less permission to act like this because they're supposed to be the government, if you will, to be real snarky at an expert. I mean, a lot of times people roll their eyes and say, defense attorneys, you expect it. They are what they are, so to speak. But, in theory, the prosecutor is supposed to wear the white hat. I don't think they do in this case, but they're supposed to. And, a jury, when the time comes, could be taken very aback by such an aggressive approach with this type of witness.
Right. Say what you want about Lally, but he wasn't really like this very often. Maybe once or twice. But
interestingly enough, when he did get a little fired up, it was with her.
That's true.
I mean, it's kind of weird.
That's true.
I mean, she's like a nice lady,
You're really killing my case.
They may not like her opinion, but it's a little aggressive.
Yeah, a little bit. And for his first time out, it's not a great look, but we're here for it.
Again, in the overall scheme of emergency medicine and the frequency that dog bites are to other cases, it's just not a case that I would remember that kind of the specifics of the case.
Interesting in supporting your past experience. You shared with us the size of these past experiences and presenting yourself as an expert in pattern recognition. And it's interesting that when I'm asking for details that support this general
Objection, Your Honor. Argument.
Yeah, so,
Yes.
counsel.
I mean, for those of you who couldn't hear what he was saying, he said, it's interesting that you're presenting yourself as an expert in pattern recognition, but you're not allowed, you can't give me any details about any specificity.
This should be sustained because this is totally inappropriate tone with her. But the judge is now going to tell Alessi, I don't want you to tell me the reason for your objection in my court. That's where this is going.
Oh, let's see. Hold on.
when I'm asking for details that support this general
The chair is louder than
Objection,
his
Your
voice.
Honor. Argument.
Yeah, so,
I'm
counsel,
sorry. Yeah.
that's okay. In Massachusetts, typically, we don't give the reason for objections from the
Of course we
floor. Your objection sustained, no commentary, Mr. Brennan.
No commentary.
You shared with the court that you wrote a few articles that had to do with dog bites.
Co-authored, yes,
Can I ask you some questions about those?
absolutely.
Thank you. Now, the first one I want to talk about is law enforcement canine dog bites.
Law enforcement.
Do you remember that article?
Yes,
And that had to do with what you refer to as law enforcement dogs or canines.
yes,
In that article, you talk specifically about a technique that you believe law enforcement or canine dogs utilize, which is bite and hold.
yes,
And what you have suggested is that the bite and hold technique is different than typically a domestic dog or a civilian dog
yes,
because it's a trained learning for the dog, correct?
yes,
There are certain injuries you would expect from a canine dog using a bite and hold technique.
yes.
When you wrote this or co-authored this article, you didn't actually sit down with people who had wounds and compare the wounds to the dog that caused them, did you?
To the actual dog?
Yes.
I didn't, but I didn't.
Just
They
wanna
were
know if you did.
prisoners.
No.
They were prisoners.
And when you look at these different cases,
Uh-huh.
there was 700 cases. This was what you called or the authors called a retrospective analysis.
Correct.
That means you were looking back at old files.
Yes, but I participated in some of those files. We were just looking back at the data from those files.
Mhm.
I participated in the care of some of those patients.
I understand.
Okay,
And so when you went through the files, you didn't have the opportunity then to follow up and speak to any of the participants or the injured victims, did you?
I spoke to many of the victims while I was treating them.
In the
When you
prison.
decided to write this article, did you go back and speak to anybody?
No,
There's no mention in this article about pattern recognition in any way. That's not what this article is about, was it?
no, that's not what the article's about.
This is about something entirely different than what you've suggested today is your pattern recognition skills. Yes?
That's correct. I recognized the patterns because I saw the wounds and I saw the injuries and I saw them over and over and over again. And I recognized those patterns throughout my career. And so it's just hard to unrecognize something.
I'm trying to ask you about the significance of your study because
Okay.
this is actually something that you published.
Yes.
And I'm trying to determine, or I want you to be able to discuss the relevancy of this article to what you're testifying today. So the question, the really narrow question I have for you is, in this study, it had nothing to do with trying to engage in pattern recognition.
The purpose of the study was not to teach people pattern recognition. It was to alert them to the dangers of this different type of dog bite so that they weren't undertreating them. But in the process of seeing all those patients, I developed the pattern recognition.
Okay. And so there was another article, Managing Law Enforcement Canine Dog Bites in the Emergency Department.
Yes.
Now that only comprised of 4 cases, yes?
It was a case description.
Of 4 cases.
Yes.
And do you know, most studies usually include over 30 cases?
It's not a study.
He does sound like Humphrey
You
Bogart.
reviewed types of injuries relative to
Cool.
civilian or domestic dogs, or just
Sam
canine?
Spade.
Those were canine dogs.
And again, your position is that the injuries by canine dogs, law enforcement dogs, are different in kind than domestic or civilian dogs.
In general, when they bite and hold, those injuries are different. Sometimes they don't get a complete bite.
And so this article didn't deal with civilian or domestic dogs. It dealt with only canine dogs,
That's correct.
exclusively on the idea or the perspective of bite and hold injuries.
It was on the perspective of you need to learn how to treat these
Bite and hold injuries.
dog bite injuries.
Bite and hold.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Now, again, in this article, there was no effort to identify wounds or use pattern analysis. It was the treatment of bite and hold injuries from canines,
That's correct.
law enforcement canines. Yes?
Yes, yes.
And then you also shared with us, in addition to these 2 articles on law enforcement dogs and bite and hold injuries, that you did some revising, editing of a book for a Dr. Is it Vati?
I'm sorry, say again?
You said that you revised or edited a book of a
Dr.
friend.
Vale.
Dr. Vale, I'm sorry, Dr. Vale. And when you were asked about what actually you recall about the topics, you don't really remember the topics of that book. You just remembered you edited it.
No, I remember the topics of the
Okay.
book.
In the topics of the book, it was dealing with human teeth, wasn't it?
Yes, but in the article
Mhm.
itself, if you read it, there's mention about dog dentition.
There's a mention of it.
Yes.
Tell us what that mention was.
Well, the mention is that the dog dentition looks different and dog bites look different because of the triangular shape of the dog's mouth versus a rounded shape of the human's mouth.
Well, when they talk about the shape of a dog's mouth, it's not really triangular. It's like an hourglass.
Well, but that was the quote those were the words that were used in the article, and it's relative triangular shape. It's as opposed to a round shape of a human.
Well, in most studies, professional studies by experts, isn't it routinely referred to as an hourglass shape?
I haven't seen that at all.
Well, have you read books on dog bites?
I've read articles on dog bites.
You've read books on dog bites.
No, I have read articles on dog bites.
Have you ever read this book? Do you recognize this as an authority?
No.
So for the record, you need to say what you just showed the
I'm
witness.
showing Dr. Russell a book called Dog Bites, a Multidisciplinary Perspective, edited by Daniel S. Mills. Never-
Is that it? I'm sorry.
Edited by
May
who
I
wrote
see
it?
If the court would let me, of course. May I approach?
Did his expert write a book? Crosby?
I don't know.
Thank you.
Have you read this book? Is he trying to suggest that she can't opine as an expert on something unless she's written an article about
Thank
it?
you.
Trying to say she's not up to date in the field and doesn't even know the authorities.
A book on dog bites. She's gonna be like, who wrote this? Is it a medical doctor?
Degrees.
Right.
It doesn't mention if any of these people have degrees of
I'm
any.
sorry, Your Honor, I don't believe a question's pending.
Laughing in the gallery.
Sorry, Mr. Alessi, I couldn't hear you.
Thank you. I don't believe a question.
Oh, I'm
is
sorry.
pending for the witness.
Okay, are you moving to strike that?
Yes, I am.
All right, I'll strike that. So, Doctor, I know it's been a long day. Wait for a question, please, okay?
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
You done reviewing the book?
Yes.
Wow.
I don't think any of these people have any degrees.
That didn't work out so well.
Nope. Is that the authoritative
Distinction between,
authoritative
20
treatise on dog bites?
Wait, is that it? So the book gimmick is over? She
Yeah, I
just
think he's moving on.
said, this is written by children. There's no question. The defense lawyer actually moves to strike and then he's done. Wow.
And
Okay.
Lola's like, why?
Lola wants nothing to do with this. You might hear Winnie too, because I think that, what time is it? Oh yeah. It's that time.
It's
Yeah.
walk time.
you've, through your testimony, attempted to,
Dropped it like a
or
bad habit.
suggested there's a distinction between canine law enforcement wounds and that of domestic.
Yes,
But domestic dogs can cut the skin,
correct.
cause serious injury,
Yes,
deep wounds.
they can.
It's not just that domestic dogs just nip around the corners. They can bite,
What does this have to
They can
do with
attack.
qualifying her as an
Yes.
expert?
they can kill.
Yes.
This is a
We've seen it.
trial cross.
Yeah, exactly. This has nothing to do. Exactly. I think they called for this hearing just so they could just so they were on, they wanted like a preview of what she's going to testify to, because that's pretty much what it was.
I don't know, but I don't know. Well, maybe he's got more, again, he's alleging inconsistencies. We'll see what comes out from that. But so far, this is, what we call the yeah, but cross, yeah, but this, yeah, but that, yeah,
Right.
yeah. And it's more but a beat, but a boop. It's not really doing anything to diminish her ability to render an expert opinion based on the skill set that she has.
Mm-hmm. AJ's looking at his phone like, really? I'm going to miss my flight. I'm going to have to stay here again.
Oh, he's totally looking at flights right now.
No, I didn't witness the attack, no.
Do you doubt that it was a canine attack?
No, I didn't witness the attack myself.
Oh, I understand.
Firsthand is what you said.
Okay. You made a firsthand observation of a dog bite in the 1970s when you were at a training
Yes,
and one of the participants was bit.
yes.
Now, you said you didn't remember the wound. Do you have any memory of looking at what happened after
In
a
the
dog actually
70s?
bit somebody firsthand?
I don't know what I had for breakfast last Monday.
No, I'm going to allow its cross-examination on our test, based on our testimony.
Say again? My question.
Should I
It's nothing
repeat,
to do with your
Doctor?
qualifications.
Do you have any memory of what you saw of when a dog actually bit somebody, your firsthand observation?
From 50 years ago? No.
When people came in the emergency room, you didn't actually see the bites or how the mechanics of it happening. You're treating it after they come and ask you for aid.
That's correct.
Did you ever, in any of those emergency room experiences, go and see the dog?
No.
Did you ever have any other information about the dog, photographs, pictures, anything like that?
Well, I did have other information about the dog.
Give me an example. Tell me.
Well, we had to fill out a dog bite report after a dog bite's requirement in
Oh.
Los Angeles County. So
Dog bite
although
report.
most doctors don't have the time to do it, I tried to comply with that rule. So I would question the victim, try to find out the address of the dog if they knew it. Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. But I tried to get as much information as I could.
Did you ever get any photographs?
No.
From it? So it was just reporter information from the person who's coming for treatment or somebody that was assisting them.
Yes.
You provided a CV in this case, didn't you?
Yes.
In your CV, you list out some of your pertinent history and experience.
Yes,
Subsequent to your CV, you wrote a report and you signed it on the 9th of December, 2024,
yes,
and it was provided to the Commonwealth, on December 10th, 2024, 2 days ago.
yes.
There are a number of things that you offer in that report regarding your suggested experience that are just not in your CV. Isn't that fair to say?
That could be, yes, of course. You can't put everything in the CV.
Well, you didn't say anything really about dog bite experience in your CV other than your 2 articles, did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay. And you didn't mention anything about this specialized training or expertise in pattern recognition analysis. You didn't mention anything about that in your CV, did you?
Can't mention everything.
I didn't ask if you could mention anything. I'm asking if you mentioned that.
Well, it says brief CV on the top.
Okay. I'll ask you again.
Okay.
Did you mention anything in your CV about pattern recognition analysis in your described expertise in that?
No.
In your
She
report,
just testified for like 3 days about her expertise in it.
But
And
she
if she altered her CV since the last trial, he would have said, "Oh, all of a sudden you put all this in your CV, then, huh?"
this is going to be helpful down the line because, obviously she's been doing this now for hours and hours, and you get tired, and she's taking the cheese a little bit,
Yeah.
but it's good to see that this is what he's going to do, and just to remind in the future, like, don't take the cheese with this back and forth over the nonsense. No, I didn't put down I'm a dog bite expert on my CV that's 50 pages. Who cares? No,
Right. Doesn't
That's it.
matter.
Doesn't matter.
Better to get, her little, figure out what her triggers are while there's no jury there, too.
and let me ask you before we get to your report, you testified at a voir dire in this case
Yes.
about a year ago,
Less than that.
and you then testified at trial.
Yes.
When you testified in the voir dire and trial and in your CV, you don't mention the scores of peer review articles on dog bites that you studied, do you?
It's a compound question.
Ask that question
I'm
again.
sorry. When you testified 2 times before,
Yes.
did you talk about the scores, as you describe it, of peer review articles that you've studied on dog bites?
On the numbers of period. No, I didn't mention that. That's correct.
Okay,
Was she
and that's
at-
not mentioned in your CV either,
You don't usually mention it in your CV about the articles you read.
but I'm asking if you did.
Oh, no, I wouldn't mention that in my CV.
Okay, so let's talk about it now since you didn't mention it. You read scores of peer-reviewed articles on dog bites.
Throughout my career, yes.
Let's talk about the peer-reviewed articles that you've studied on pattern recognition analysis of dog bites. Could you please give me a list
A
of
list?
those peer-reviewed articles that you studied?
I don't think there are any.
Well, you
There
said-
are some mentions of pattern recognition in some articles. However, I don't think there's a dedicated article on pattern recognition of
Well,
dog bites.
you said in your report that you reviewed scores of peer-reviewed articles on dog bites.
Dog bites, yes.
He asked about pattern
So those
recognition.
didn't really include pattern recognition as you've described your expertise. today.
Pattern, not
Some of them
patent.
did, some of them didn't, but that might not have been the major focus of the article.
Which ones did? Can you reference us the ones that you've read and relied upon, in your opinion today, that have to do with pattern recognition analysis?
May I look at my report or my CV?
Of
Sure,
course.
sure. Go ahead and take your time. Doc.
This is ridiculous. My CV doesn't say that I was the counter girl at Howard Johnson's when I was 16
Okay,
either.
talking about in these articles, and they might not have used the term patent. Okay, there is, and they might not have used the term patent recognition, but that's
hot.
what they're talking about in these articles.
Okay.
There is a article by D. Munick. It's actually listed in my report
Mm-hmm.
under literature.
Okay. I see it.
It's the third one. Yes.
And that deals with pattern recognition
It's
analysis?
part of the article. There was a lot more in the article than just pattern recognition. And again, they might not have used that specific term pattern, but it's what the subject was discussed in the middle of the article. Yes.
What was discussed in this article that you relied upon?
Oh, I relied on the descriptions of wounds. I relied on a lot of this article.
Well, share with us in detail. Could you tell us what you relied on that
She's
article?
not
as part of
getting
your opinion?
tossed as an expert because Brennan wants to play a game of gotcha, and you can't name articles that you read over the past 40 years and show me that you really read them. Is he going to argue that she's not telling the truth, that she's not reliable, that because she can't give you those things, how do we know it's true? Like, this does nothing. Nothing. Oh,
And
you're
it's
sorry.
improper. It's improper.
But I don't even know what the end game here is. Playing a game of gotcha with an expert like this saying, tell me about a case you reviewed 50 years ago. Are you seriously going to argue to the court that this shows that she's not reliable and can't be trusted to give an expert opinion because she can't name every article she read and didn't put them in her CV and didn't mention that in a very brief voir dire 9 months ago?
Right. She's exaggerating her qualifications. That's what he's getting at, I think.
There was a description. There was an area that described wounds and fatal wounds in dog bites, and how to approach them. How to investigate them. There was an area that described what some of these wounds looked like. And there was actually an area that I believe it was this article that said that if you have this plus this plus this, that it is pathognomonic for a dog bite. Now, I believe that was the article that said that. One of these articles did, but anyways, so yeah. So I think maybe you might want to look at them.
Oh, I did.
Okay.
That's why I'm asking you.
Okay.
That's why I'm confused about which one you're talking about.
There was not a recipe book that said, okay, this is the pattern of a dog bite. It might, might not get a lot of readers for that, but this was a forensic approach as to how to identify fatal dog attacks.
So from your resume, doctor, could you tell me which article you're talking about?
I'm talking about the third one down.
What's the title?
I can't even believe she's
The title of
entertaining
the
this.
article is
Judge.
Forensic Approach of Fatal Dog Attacks.
She's
a
giving
case
this
report
brief-
and literature review.
It's not worthy of more than 5
Fatal
seconds.
dog attacks oftentimes involve vulnerable areas like the neck,
Absolutely.
abdomen.
And they're
Neck,
fatal?
face, head, yes.
That's
Sometimes the abdomen, yes.
okay. No cases cited in there that
She's not saying that he died from dog bites,
No, this
sir.
deal with wounds on an arm.
Because it's a fatal,
Right.
right. But that doesn't mean that there weren't wounds on the arm. It's that the fatal wounds, like in the case I autopsied,
Mhm.
the fatal wounds generally were in the areas that had organs that could be damaged, like the or major vessels like a carotid artery, neck. But there could be a lot of other wounds. For instance, my case, there was probably about 60 wounds.
I understand.
Okay, but some of, you're not going to talk about every single one of them because they're not worthy of describing.
Okay. You said that you attended multiple seminars, talks, and lectures regarding wound identification.
Yes.
When did you attend seminars on wound identification?
Intermittently throughout my career, I can't give you any dates.
Okay. Were any of those wound identifications dog bite wound identification seminars?
No, they were general wound identifications, and they may mention bites.
Was there any of these seminars that focused on dog bite wounds?
That focused on dog bite wounds?
Yes.
No.
How about the talks you went to? Any of the talks focus on dog bite wounds?
There were several talks that focused on bite wounds.
I'm going to ask again. Were there any talks that focused on dog bite wounds?
No.
Lectures. You've cited that you've attended lectures as part of this experience. Can you recall specific lectures that focused on dog bite wounds?
Not entire lectures. There were lectures in emergency department, training sessions. But dog bites were usually mixed in with other kind of animal bites, and discussion would occur because it's not you have to use up an hour usually when you go to one of these lectures, and there were other animals to talk about besides dogs.
In these lectures that you went to that didn't focus primarily on dog bite wounds, did they talk about pattern recognition analysis of dog bite wounds?
Generally not the emergency medicine ones, because that's actually not really a major focus. The focus in emergency medicine is treatment. I'm a bit unusual because I have this interest that I've had for many years.
So it's fair to say none of the multiple seminars, talks, lectures that you attended had any focus on pattern recognition analysis of dog bite wounds.
None of them had any focus. That's correct.
You've shared with us your experience. You've agreed that you are not an accident reconstruction expert, correct?
Correct.
Are you an expert on self-defense?
No.
So when you give opinions about self-defense, I know you have experience and you have observations of what you believe a defense of wounds, but do you have any actual experience as a self-defense expert?
I need a chiropractor.
Do you have any specialized training, certificates, degrees in self-defense?
No.
I have common sense in the ER when people tell me I was going like this because the dog was tagging me.
Do you have any memory of particular trainings that you had on self-defense wounds?
You mean defense wounds?
Sure, defense wounds.
Yes,
Sure.
I do. I have particular memories of those types of lectures.
Okay.
In topic. Oh, yes, I do.
Let's talk about a few of them. What was one of the lectures that you went to that was directed at defense wounds?
Well, not only did I go to some of these lectures, but I gave some of these lectures.
Okay.
And they were child abuse, elder abuse, domestic violence lectures. And in the coroner's office, again, mechanism of injury is stressed, and there's a whole training program.
You have no degree in biomechanics?
No.
Okay. And so when I asked you about one of the trainings on defense wounds, I want you to just give us a little detail from your memory about the training. Share with us how you've come to this knowledge on defense wounds.
Again, okay. So in the clinical setting, I was taught many times, and then I subsequently taught students about how victims of a violent act will instinctively bring up their arms to protect themselves from whatever is being inflicted, whether it be knife wounds or blunt wounds from an object, whatever is being inflicted on them. They will tend, without thinking, to try to protect themselves. And I also think it's common sense, by the way.
So on the outside of the arm, if there's marks, that could be a defensive wound?
Yes.
Could it be a different type of wound, not a defensive wound, but a wound where somebody punches or hits and it hits a metal or a stationary or a fixed object?
Could those kind of wounds end up there? Oh, yes.
Okay. So just because there is a wound on the posterior side of the forearm, that does not make it a defensive wound, does it?
Not absolutely.
Well,
in context, though.
Right. So you need to know more information.
Correct.
So perhaps if you saw how that happened, that would provide you more information.
That would be one way.
But if you saw nothing and have really no idea how it happened, it doesn't give you a lot of context of the wound other than it's a wound on the posterior side of an arm.
Well, it does in the sense that it's a common way that people protect themselves.
Can someone incur wounds to the forearm, posterior side of the forearm, if they fall to the ground and fall backwards?
They could, but they wouldn't look like that. That series.
Have you studied a collection of wounds when people fell backwards onto the ground?
The frozen ground.
Hundreds of people that have fallen backwards or frontwards and every which way.
Wouldn't you want to have an idea what they fell on or into before you make a conclusion that it would not have looked like the picture that we've looked at, Exhibit 5?
I've seen, as I said, hundreds, and there has never been a pattern like that ever that I've seen.
Well, when someone hits a moving or a floating object, patterns are dynamic. They change.
Floating
all the time,
object?
don't they?
They do during the hitting process. Yes, during that process.
The car is floating now. It's chitty chitty bang bang.
You talked about your specialized training. You said you had a program in motor vehicle accidents.
Yes.
And I think when you testified before, Attorney Lally had asked you whether or not your training was, I think he used the word rudimentary, and you agreed.
Yes, I believe it was only a 1-week course or something thereabouts.
When you're identifying a wound at the hospital, is it important to know, you said it's important to know the animal because that dictates the treatment.
It may dictate the treatment.
What if you can't identify the animal?
Then then you have to go on clinical judgment, and sometimes we even have to call up the Board of Health. But you go on clinical judgment to determine, well, what was the worst possibility? That's the way I approach medicine. What is the worst? Could it have been a rabid animal, an animal with rabies? Or was it an animal that doesn't carry rabies? And then based by treatment on that, sometimes you have to treat broadly, and sometimes you have to, treat people for conditions, even if you don't know 100% that they exist.
Are there times when you saw injuries that you just didn't know how they happened?
Yes.
Many times. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And many times you thought what you saw were bites, but you couldn't articulate the animal, right?
That happens sometimes.
Okay. Suffice to say, you have never, ever been qualified in a federal court
Never, ever.
to testify as a dog bite expert, have you?
No.
And other than
Is this
this
federal
trial
court?
a year ago,
How often do federal
ever,
courts
ever
address
been
dogs?
qualified
Who
to
knows?
testify
Right.
in any
Exactly.
state court in the entire country as a dog bite expert?
No, the issue never came up.
That's not what I asked.
Okay.
Though.
No.
No. You wrote a report in this case?
Yes.
Did anybody help you write this report?
I wrote the report. I had some help with some minor edits and rearranging, some paragraphs or whatever, but putting things in the right category.
Okay.
But no, I wrote the report.
Who helped you with your report?
Mr. Alessi.
So did you write a preliminary or draft report, send it for input, and then change it?
No, I didn't change it. I wrote the report, and I would have things in the wrong categories, for instance, like training experience or whatever.
Who said they were the wrong category?
Well, I think that was my conclusion, actually.
I see. And so how would you go through this editing process? How did that work on this report?
He wants
Did you send
discovery.
it back
He
and
wants
forth?
these drafts.
It got sent back and forth a couple times.
Okay. Now, this report you signed, right?
Did I sign it? Yes.
Nobody else signed it. You.
I wrote it.
Okay. And the reason why I asked if you had
Thanks,
help,
Mila.
a lot of your statements and conclusions in this report are different than the testimony that you gave at both the voir dire hearing a year ago and at the trial. Is that fair to say?
I don't think it's fair to say.
Okay.
I think that
Tell me.
I don't think it's fair.
Okay.
I was convinced, if we would get into specifics, I was convinced of of my opinion back in the voir dire and in the trial. But I think I stated it wrong. I stated it as if I was talking to other doctors. They say in medicine that nothing is 100% in medicine. That's what we learn, when we go up through medical school and residency and whatever. And in my teachings, I always told people nothing is 100%. And that was the number that I was, that I thought I was being asked for. Basically, it was 100%. So that's why I stated my opinion the way I did. But anyways, as I went through material again, I was convinced back then, and I am still convinced right now that these are caused by dog bites. And not only that, but dog attack.
If you were testifying honestly and earnestly before and you're using doctor's
Did she just gasp?
why would you need to change it for today? This report, why not just?
Wait a second. Did she just audibly gasp? Hold on.
Somebody did. I mean, when you frame a question as a lawyer on cross, if you testified honestly and earnestly, you're basically saying, I think you're full of shit and a scumbag.
Liar. Yeah. I got to hear that again.
That's
Dog bites. And not only that, but dog attack.
If you were testifying honestly and earnestly before and you're using doctor speak, why would you need to change it for today? This report, why not just continue to offer a natural, honest, thorough opinion that you had before? Why did you have to change it?
I came up with this. I became clearer and clearer every single time that I looked at the pictures, and I just realized that I understated the last time, that I misunderstood the question that was asked of me, regarding my opinion, and so I felt that I had to be clearer.
Did anybody point out to you that it'd be more helpful to the defense case if you had a more assertive opinion?
No, absolutely not.
So when you went through these days and months since the trial, any new information that you looked at that made you realize you underscored the confidence in your opinion?
No.
Okay. Because in your earlier testimony, it's quite different.
I know.
Okay. I want to do this gently, but I want to go through some of that.
I want to do this gently.
not appropriate either.
He's trying to make her
When
cry.
you first
That's being
testified,
argumentative.
you
He's
had
signaling to the judge she's full of shit.
Right.
I don't want to hurt your feelings and call you a liar, but
I want to do this gently. Wow. I can't wait to hear what he says next.
just ask the questions.
how should I say this? You offered opinions that were less than certain about the genesis and cause of the wounds, didn't you?
I think it sounded like I was not certain. However, I was certain. I just didn't express it correctly.
Okay. When you first testified in the voir dire about some of these wounds, you were asked what kind of animal you thought caused the wounds, and you said, most likely a dog.
Correct.
Right. You didn't say beyond a reasonable degree of dog bite certainty, did you?
Objection, Your Honor.
It's the basis of the,
The
The
magic.
objection is, he said beyond a reasonable doubt, and that was.
no, he didn't say doubt. He said degree of medical certainty.
He said,
Wait, now she wants the grounds for the objection, but usually she doesn't want the grounds for the objection, but now she wants the grounds? Hold on.
Dog bite certainty, did you?
objection, Your Honor.
Dog bite
It's the
certainty.
basis of the
He did-
question.
They're both
objection
wrong.
is-
He made up his own standard beyond a reasonable degree of dog bite certainty, whatever
There's
the
no
hell.
such thing.
Yeah. And then, so Alessi thought he said beyond a reasonable doubt. The judge thought he said the, proper legal standard. It turns out nobody said anything that's the right standard.
But now all of a sudden she wants the grounds for the objection.
Beyond a reasonable doubt, and that was.
No, he didn't say doubt. He said degree of medical certainty.
No, he didn't. He said dog bite certainty.
He said beyond, Your Honor.
Right, beyond a reasonable degree of medical certainty. So I heard you didn't get to the certainty, you just heard beyond reasonable and objected.
He said,
So based on that, the objection's overruled.
Let me phrase to make it clear.
read it again.
You didn't say to a reasonable
to be
degree
clear,
of medical certainty.
Fair
that
to the
this-
process. This is totally fair questioning. I mean, I think the manner of it is a little, not how I would do it and how most lawyers would do it with somebody like this. But if he is suggesting that she changed her language or opinion, I mean,
Strengthened her opinion.
he's allowed to examine on this, but the manner of it is just, yeesh.
The bites you looked at were a dog.
I did in one of the okay, maybe in the next one. Okay, but yeah, if I wasn't asked about reasonable degree of medical certainty, I
Well,
may not have expressed it.
the court herself asked you
Yeah.
Do you know what kind of animal? And you said, yes, most likely a dog.
Yes.
Is that fair to say?
Yes.
So you didn't express certainty at that point.
Yes, but again, thinking as a doctor and not a lawyer or a judge or someone, I'm thinking as a doctor. I'm thinking that it's never 100%, and so that's what I was going by. If I was going to be teaching medical,
In the real world, here's how this works. Her opinion today is to a degree, beyond a reasonable degree of medical certainty. This is all wonderful cross-examination in front of a jury. It's fair.
Right.
And then you can argue that she's just not reliable, that she's fudging it, she's making it better as it goes on. And of course, if the jury likes that, maybe they'll credit that. But she's still qualified. She's telling you what her opinion is. They spent 4 hours going over it.
Mm-hmm.
This can't be the basis to literally exclude her. Her current opinion is quite clear and quite strong based on the support she has for it. All of this stuff goes to the weight that you should assign to it as a fact finder, meaning the jury.
Right.
And this
Right.
is all fair game, but this should not exclude as much as discredit as a trial witness.
He's going to keep going.
students what those wounds were. Another group of wounds. I tell people never 100% in medicine. So that's
Right.
why, that's where that came from. And I apologize if I confused the court.
I don't think there's any confusion.
I don't think there's any confusion. You're just a liar.
The word possibly is even
That
less
they should
certain
object
than
to.
likely,
I'm
isn't it?
sorry. She's basically offering her explanation, and he's saying there's no confusion. I don't believe you.
Mhm.
That's not appropriate. That should have been stricken. That's argumentative and snotty.
Mhm.
He's basically saying there's no confusion. You're full of shit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, when you're a doctor and you look at something, you say, well, the likelihood is this is the cause of this.
Oh, yeah.
The medical
be
opinion. It's always a medical
stronger
opinion.
than saying
That's why people get second
possibly
opinions.
this.
Correct.
Possible is even less certain, isn't it? At trial, when you were asked about the cause of the injuries, I'm going to quote you, and I can show you
This
if
is,
you'd like.
please.
It's the trial transcript, page 19, line 21. What you said is, I believe that these injuries were sustained by an animal, possibly a large dog, because of the patent injuries.
Yes.
Is that your testimony?
Yes.
Very different. I'll just finish if I could. Very different than what you're opining today at this hearing.
I'm sorry that you think it is, and I can understand how you believe it is, but it's not different to me. I believed it was a dog. I was convinced it was a dog then, but going by the no 100% in medicine, I didn't say that. I am still convinced it's a dog. The one thing that's a little different is that it's an attack. I after counting the series of wounds and whatever, I am convinced not only was it a dog, striking once or twice, but it was actually multiple strikes by that dog.
Okay, now I want to get back to the testimony we were talking about, your testimony at trial under oath, okay? Your testimony is you believe they were sustained by an animal, possibly a large dog. You expressed uncertainty that you didn't even know or have an opinion about what type of animal caused these wounds at that time. Is that fair to say?
I was leaving room for if there was for instance, another kind of animal in the vicinity that, but there's no evidence to that. There's no, paw marks or anything in the ground.
What other animal do you think was in the vicinity that would have caused these?
Oh, come on.
I don't know, but I was just leaving that. Again, being a trained physician, there's no absolutes, and so that's
Her opinion. That's why they call it an
way
opinion
I
with a
approached
reasonable
it.
degree.
I'm sorry.
Did you inquire to see more discoveries, to see if there was a pack of wild animals in 34 Fairview that would have caused this? Did you reach out to any of the
Not how I would
witnesses or
phrase
lawyers
it,
and
asking if there
Right.
ask if there was
was
any
wild
reports or
animals
information
inside
suggesting another
34
animal?
Fairview. With a different witness, you might get an answer that's a little
Right.
snarky that you don't want to hear.
Mm-hmm. Look at the defense team right here. What a great picture this is. My freeze game is on point. Look at their faces. They're like, really? There was a pack of wild animals. Wasn't coyotes.
The redirect will be interesting on
Wasn't
all.
raccoons.
I did not.
Were you curious?
I did not. I just didn't do it.
Okay.
I'm curious about where Chloe is right now. Can you tell us that, counselor?
You were asked by Mr. Jackson, trial page 23, line 3. He provided the question, does this appear as it's a pattern injury that you see appear consistent with an animal or a large dog? And you said yes. So you included that this, again, could have been a dog or an animal in your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Mm-hmm. I haven't,
So I'm sorry, we can't take a, we need a yes or no.
oh, sorry.
Doctor.
Yes.
Mhm. But he
Again,
says,
at trial, page 23, line 6, you were asked, does the number of injuries that you see here relegated to just the right arm, is that consistent with an animal or a large dog? And you said, yes, it can be. Okay. Do you want to see your testimony? Because I don't want to just put words in your mouth.
No, I trust you.
And so the, thank
don't
you.
trust
So
him.
the
Bad move,
question
doc.
that you were asked was positing that it could have been not just a dog, but any animal. And you were agreeable to that at that time.
Again, thinking like a medical doctor, not a participant in a
Not an
in a
expert
legal
witness.
setting.
Even so, she wouldn't
Not
say
to belabor,
100%.
but these are your words, so I want to talk to you about them. You were again asked, page 23, line 18, by Mr. Jackson, based on everything that we've discussed today, doctor, is it your opinion, based on a reasonable degree of medical certainty, that these injuries were from an animal attack, possibly a large dog? And you said yes. Correct?
That was the
Yes.
question.
Okay. And so your opinions today that this was exclusively an animal attack caused by a large dog, that is much different in kind than the uncertainty and possibility that you admitted under oath during trial, in this case, the first time, or actually the second time you testified about it. Wouldn't that be fair to say?
It sounds like it, yes.
Okay, I think this is a good point to stop because we need to get another date. You're not going to finish in 3 minutes, right? No.
Must
okay.
have been 3 minutes to 4.
All right, so Mr. Attorney, was the date you and I looked at? Was it Jim? Okay.
Jim, you have one job, Jim. Jim, pay attention, Jim.
If the witness can step down, but Timmy, she's going to stay in the courtroom without any date.
You have to check everybody's calendar now.
Yes.
January 6th,
Okay.
January 6th.
That's the date of the Epiphany. January
Back
6th
from
is the
Cal-
Epiphany.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody comes back to California because they can't do this in one day because they have to shut down at 4 o'clock.
Right. How about you stay here
Doctor, are
until
you
you're done?
available on January 6th?
It's a Monday. It is such a joke.
I'd be available.
I think after January 15th is cutting it a little too close.
To what? To April 1st?
You earlier, that's far out.
So, I mean, the best date for the court is January 6th.
Everyone should just
No dates in December, Your Honor?
make them, get it done in December, Judge.
Will be available.
How about
Earl?
tomorrow? We're here.
Actually, I don't know that we'd be able to do it. We suspend.
How about we're here? We're here. We're all here from California, Your Honor. We'll just change our flights and we'll do this tomorrow. And you can push your calendar around. Come on, man.
Ended a jury trial today that we told the jurors they'd have tomorrow, and we still have testimony. So I think at best we'd give you a half an hour, and I don't think that does you any good.
Recuse yourself.
So,
Commonwealth will be available anytime.
Monday we can't do?
no, not any time before. I could do the 30th.
She's doing this in a way where everyone's going to have to come back.
So what we really need is Mr. Alessi.
Your Honor, what is your question for a date? And I'll give
We're now-
you. an-
January
30th. We're looking at the 30th now.
or the 6th, Jim, right?
Yeah, the day before New Year's Eve. Great idea.
Doctor said after the 15th.
Can you do January 6th?
Can I?
Yes.
I wasn't going to be in town.
Yeah.
Can I ask this? Is the 30th an available date for the court?
Can we move our other stuff, Jimmy?
Oh, I'm sorry.
But she's like, Mr. Jackson, you don't need to be
January
here.
6th?
I can do January 6th. But I want to be I'm trying to be respectful of the.
Do you know how many people
I'm
go
trying
away
to
for
do
the
that
week
as well,
between
but
Christmas,
the
Christmas and
witnesses'
New Year's?
best dates after the
Everyone.
30th are after the 15th of January, and that's too late. So I understand that the conflict seems to be Mr. Jackson, but Mr. Yannetti, are you available on the 30th or the 6th?
I could move things to be available. On the
Everyone.
6th. There's no chance we could do the 8th, right?
And the legal community goes away from Christmas to New Year's. We just do. It's the only week we get off during the year.
The 8th,
I think she's, it doesn't matter to her.
Jim.
yes.
I have stuff.
Actually, I could do the 7th, the 8th.
And Dr. Russell's like on vacation then. How about that?
I could probably do the 9th. I have to move something, but I could do the 9th. I just can't do the 6th.
Are you talking to me?
No, they're not talking to you.
It's my party and I'll talk if I want to.
Where are we up to now? The 8th? Back to the,
That
up
would
to
be
the
the
8th
best
now?
for us if we could
The
do
8th in the morning?
it anytime.
All day.
So I have a conflict here in the afternoon.
about
So
Like,
I have something that we have to do in the afternoon
she can't.
on that Wednesday. On that, yeah,
What were you going to say?
Is Lally chewing gum there in the courtroom?
Let's see.
Wednesday, the 8th. But if we can do it in the
Nicorette.
morning, we'll do it in the morning.
I could do it. We could all
It's
do it
going
at
to
9
take longer
o'clock.
than a morning.
I would imagine. I mean, I guess I would defer to Mr. Brennan if he can finish in the morning. 8:30.
I don't want to limit, I let Mr. Alessi go on much longer than the estimate, but, and I had no problem doing so, Mr. Alessi.
Okay.
You can't do the
They're
6th
all
or
here. Go
7th.
to 7.
Do
What,
the
come
7th,
on,
John.
what are we
I just cannot do
doing?
the 6th.
So, Mr. Alessi, you're available all the dates we said, pretty much, right?
I will make myself available for all dates. I'm not presently. but
I would like to see counsel at side.
Wow.
He's going to tell them, I don't need Jackson and Yannetti and don't care. I just need you and the witness.
Mhm.
That's what he's going to tell them and doesn't want to say it out loud.
She's got the right to have all her attorneys there if she wants to, though, right?
She does, although, you know, I mean, I don't think it's going to impact her one way or the
9 a.m.
other. But
Last call, January 7th? That sound good?
At 9 a.m., Jimmy.
9 a.m.? January 7th, 9 a.m.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Brennan.
Wow.
Jimmy, I'll take this and when you get a minute.
We'll let that play out while we don't listen to the rumblings from the courtroom, but thoughts, concerns, ridiculousness.
I mean, the tone of the cross is shocking, frankly.
Mhm.
The editorializing is inappropriate, especially to a distinguished medical doctor who is, you know, just telling everybody what she thinks, whether you agree or not. The way he finished, I mean, it's fair game. It's relevant cross. If your argument is that, you know, her opinion is not reliable and she's not,
Right.
that's fine. Just the
It is a good cross for the in front of the jury to make his points about why they shouldn't believe her, but not for whether or not she should be.
Nobody's saying he's not a good lawyer. That's, of course, he's a good lawyer.
Right.
And as I said, I think the stuff that's all fair game, but the comments and the tone are, if done in front of a jury, are going to piss everyone off. But, you know, look, he's doing what he's doing. She's offered an explanation as to why the language is a little different. You know, there will be redirect explaining this in more detail, obviously, at some point, which I assume she'll articulate in a little more detail about why, you know, in medicine, we always hedge. And that's, you know, she kind of hedged, I guess, if you will, and now is stronger. But the argument at the end of the day is that if she's qualified, this is her opinion, that all of this stuff that's attacking her is better suited to the weight, not the admissibility.
Right.
And it's fair argument in front of a jury to say, when she tells you that those are definitely, bite wounds by a dog, here's why you shouldn't necessarily believe that, because that's not what she said the first time, and
Hmm.
And that's all fair argument, whether anyone will accept it or not. But I don't know how that's going to keep her off the stand.
Yeah, I don't see how she can be precluded, but now we're going into January for the continuation
Well,
of this
I
hearing.
mean, they moved the trial date, so I guess it doesn't matter. But, again, it's 2 lawyers and a witness from California, a lawyer from New York. It's a lot of travel. It's a lot of expense. It's a lot of taxpayer money. It's a lot, but, ultimately she ordered the hearing, and here we are,
Yeah. I don't think anybody thought it was going to take the full day.
and not be finished.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't know how much more of this is. I mean, I don't know what else he intends to attack her on, other than the fact that, it's our position that your opinion has changed and we reject your explanation for it.
Hmm.
I mean, I guess I don't know what else they have, but if nothing, then I would finish with that. That would probably be their strongest point. But again, I don't know that ultimately, in light of everything that happened on direct, that's a basis to say that she doesn't pass. I mean, I keep beating this to death, but I think it's important to keep repeating so people understand it. Impeaching her in the way that he is more showing that her opinion is not worthy of belief.
Hmm.
That has nothing to do with her credentials to offer it and her explanation of what she reviewed to get there and everything else. So really, the arguments that are being made by the prosecution are more to the weight a jury should assign, not as a legal threshold whether she should be allowed to offer the opinion or not.
And I know you answered this morning, but Chloe's bite marks wants to know, after having heard most of the cross anyway, if the judge excludes, does the defense have any recourse?
Well, we're not done. There's more cross and redirect for sure. I mean, the redirect could be very important on this point, I suppose, if the judge is listening to it. But if the judge were to exclude her, then the issue on appeal would be whether there's an abuse of discretion, which is a very high standard.
Yeah.
If a judge is given discretion, it means we're not going to overrule her because we disagree with her. It has to be an abuse such to the point of, this is almost, a joke. That's not the legal standard, obviously. And so, you'd have to wait and see. But again, the other issue is, in Massachusetts, what is the timing of that appeal? They do allow appeals, interlocutory appeals for certain things. I'm not sure this would do that. And if that's the case, then that would be an after trial appeal, which would only come into play if there was a conviction, which.
Right.
I
I
mean,
mean,
look-
one of the cases on point that we looked at was the Tala case, and it had to do with an expert that came in to testify about the paint drying time. And he did some, some experiments in his basement. But again, it was after a conviction. It was
Right.
a conviction appeal.
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't think that Karen Reed's freedom is going to hinge on this ruling. I don't think, even if Dr. Russell were kept out, that she would get convicted. But having said that, I don't think there's any basis to exclude her on what you've heard so far. Can she be damaged a little bit on cross at trial? Yes. I mean, it is different language. It's true. Her opinion has gotten stronger. I also think her explanation makes sense. Now, to a jury, or whether that, allows them to put oomph in what she's saying now, you'd have to wait and see. But the reality is, that exercise they went through with the punctures, in the hoodie, how it lines up generally to the injuries in the arm and how they look like dog bites and how the object clearly came out like a tooth as opposed to something that would go through and through, or something that might stay lodged in like glass. I don't know. I think she did a very, very good job. And don't forget, if she testifies, the issue for the DA is going to have to be that a jury would be willing to completely disregard her opinion as like, it's not reasonable. It can't be. And I don't even think with this that it necessarily gets to that. I mean, they have an argument to make. it's not the worst argument in the world, but I don't know that it's overwhelming in light of, what she spent hours testifying about this morning.
Yeah. Blessed in Texas, thanks for the 5. The attorney asked the doctor to look through the report for info knowing it's not there. Yeah, he asked her to look through. That was actually Alessi asking his expert to look through the medical examiner's autopsy report to see where she addressed the clothing. And so,
It's
yeah, that is allowed.
totally allowed, because the point he's making is she didn't, and she should have. So it comes off smoother if she knows in advance, in terms of it's definitely not there because I just looked at it, as opposed to let me look and flip, and they end up having to agree to it. But it's totally permissible because evidence can be in the form of omission as much as what something is.
When Jennifer McCabe was asked on the stand, well, where in your prior testimony did you ever say that she said I hit him? And then he handed her a transcript and she said, you want me to go through all 200 pages right now?
Well, that I thought
it wasn't in there.
Thought what she said was that was Proctor Trooper's fault.
Something like that.
Something
But
like
whatever it was, it wasn't in the transcript.
No, but omissions can be important too.
Yeah.
And if you're a medical examiner, and you don't talk about that, and another doctor says that's really important to know what the object could have been, that's important. For example, the medical examiner will be asked at trial, when you looked at the hoodie, how much attention did you pay? Did you notice any glass fragments? Did you notice anything? Did you take note on the tearing in the fabric, which could that indicate tooth marks, or an object coming out as opposed to something being lodged therein, and everything else you heard. So, there's all kinds of things that they're going to be able to use Dr. Russell for, not just as a witness, but as a resource.
Yep. Anything else you want to say before I let you go? Because I've had you here all day.
Oh, that was long.
No, go. Thank
was
you for coming. I'm going to just address the rest of these questions, but thank you so much. We didn't know this was going to take so long, so I
No,
appreciate
it's all
you.
right. Once you go down the rabbit hole, you have to stick around for the cross, which to me was really the only interesting part of this. The direct was outstanding, but just in terms of why are we here, it seems to me the cross was the only part. And I guess the answer right now is because they believe, she, by changing her opinion into a stronger one in terms of how it's written, that somehow means that, she's not worthy of testifying. And I just think that's the wrong analysis. It doesn't mean she's not worthy of testifying. It means that the DA has a basis of good faith cross-examination to do with what they will in front of a jury about how reliable she is in terms of crediting her opinion, which goes to the weight, not the admissibility.
I think his argument is also going to be she's never qualified in any other court as a dog bite expert. Therefore, she shouldn't qualify as a dog bite expert. But I don't know that that's what she's being offered for.
Here's the other thing, though. If he's, look, another argument he could be making is it's junk science. And if he thought it was junk science, then the argument is this is like hocus pocus nonsense. You kind of undermine that argument when you're throwing books in her face titled Dog Bites, trying to say that you don't even know what the real literature is. You're kind of, you're vouching for the science, if you will, by saying it's a recognized thing because people write books on it. It's not the most common thing in the world. And the fact that she never testified in a federal court or a state court as a dog bite expert doesn't mean that because she published on it and has seen a million of them, doesn't mean that she can't offer an opinion, on what it is. And so I thought for a while in the beginning that maybe he was going to make a junk science argument, but that doesn't seem to be where he's going.
Can the defense ask for a Daubert on Cannone? Yeah, or any of these guys like Whiffen,
why not?
Right?
The person they call Manshan, and I forget, I'm not going to call him that. I forget his name.
I don't remember who that is either.
He's the one who screwed up the bites and bits.
Right.
If you want to go down this path of,
Thanks, Bean.
Are you qualified? That will be interesting. And of course, that may be meaningless though, depending on what the results are of that whole thing they did with the telematics and whether the DA really wants to call him. We don't know what the evidence is. They may not have any need for him.
Yeah, agreed. All right, go eat dinner. Go eat dinner with your kids. Thank you. I appreciate you. All right. Put that in your calendar, January 7th.
Maybe I won't. Bye.
Yeah, maybe you won't. Exactly. All right. Thank you so much, my friends, for hanging out. Let me go to the rest of the questions here. Loudmouse, thanks for the 10. I have 2 German Shepherds. If you Google German Shepherds shed, it'll say duck. Yes, they shed worse than almost any breed. Thank you for the 10. We found out, I think that, Kim, that the gallery ruckus was from somebody's phone rang. And then somebody said, oh, is that Brian Higgins? Because we had played something funny earlier this morning about perhaps maybe Brian Higgins calling into JFK's show last night. Blessed in Texas, thanks for the 5. Can it be asked to Lally prior to the trial where the socks are in evidence and why not show in the first trial? They can ask a witness that. They can ask for discovery on the socks. They can see where somebody said the socks were in the bag at the first trial, but I don't remember that either. If somebody can point me to that part of the testimony, I would love to go back and watch it. Thank you, Trish. Thank you, Sua Sponte. That was a very funny comment. Thank you, Camille, for the 20. My head hurts thinking about why Hank is doing this. I guess we heard why in his cross. He doesn't think that she's going to be able to qualify because she's never been qualified in any other court as a dog bite expert. Exactly. They have a dog, like a guy named, I think his name's Jim Crosby. Is that what he said? James Crosby? Who's like a behavioral expert, but he's not a medical doctor. Thank you, Chloe's mom. Chloe's spirit mama, Zelda, thank you. Thank you, Texas Prime. Yeah, you're not a vet, are you? Exactly. Exactly. Blessed in Texas, no apologies necessary. Thank you very much. D. Brown, bite marks on the end of the sleeve near his right hand can explain the bruising and wound from the autopsy photo of John O'Keefe's hand. She had an explanation for that, and she didn't answer. So I'm curious as to what she's going to say. I'm curious because she didn't finish that answer. I noticed that too. Karen Reed's not guilty verdict. Thanks for the 5. Correct. He was outmatched. I thought so too. D, thank you for the 20. Dr. Russell could be an expert for any part of the trial. She has an amazing collection of education, training, and experiences. Can only imagine the nonsense coming on cross. What'd you think, D? What'd you think? Should be humorous to see Hank humiliate himself. I didn't like, I wasn't a fan of his tone. I guess it's a style. Thank you, Kim. Can she limit her testimony to one area? We saw her do that during the first trial. During the first trial, she said she can only testify about the dog bites, not about the pedestrian versus car injuries. And here's Amber, fascinated to see where they go with this Chloe bite. Thank you, Amber, for the 10. Donna, Texas Red, my dog attack arm could not be stitched to allow tooth bacteria to not cause sepsis. Took forever to heal. Yeah, that can happen. Martha, thanks for the 10. Are there duplicate? No 7s unless one was the... Many holes are really pear-shaped with pointed exit tears. I think she explained that pretty well. And her explanation about the fibers being pulled out of the material really was great testimony, I thought, to show that it wasn't something else, like a bullet or a stab wound, that maybe the knife wasn't pulled out. I thought her explanation for that was great. Thanks, Nancy. Can't Judge Baz say she's heard enough and skip the cross? Nope. Nope, she can't. Everyone gets their turn. Thanks, Alex. The curious incident of the dog that bit in the nighttime. Yep. Marcello, how much you want to bet Ms. I don't work past 4 is going to eat all the prosecution's arguments? I cannot stand Mr. New Lally. Thank you, Marcello, for tuning in from Argentina. As always, Greg says, let me get this straight. She's not qualified enough to testify. Meanwhile, Trooper Paul is walking around Massachusetts eating funny. Lighthouse Life Coach, thank you. Says emergency room physicians are trained in every system of the human body, including bones. Yep, orthopedics. That was a ridiculous line of questioning. Suze, thank you for the 5. Karen Reed's not guilty. Thank you for the 5. Amber, thank you. I said there was going to be a lot of uncomfortable moments with Brennan coming up over the next few months. I think you might be right. Decorated dude. Brennan sounds like he's personally angry at her. Yeah, I think he was trying to make her cry. Like, part of me thinks he was trying to make her cry. She didn't, though. Meatball Marcy's, Sketty Stain, Hank, Dun Diddly Duck. Yep. Thanks for the 5. Microdots even says, this is infuriating. Thanks for tuning in with a 5. Thanks for taking the time, thanking me for thanking you. I'm thanking you guys for watching. If you're leaving, smash the like button on your way out. Even if you hate watching, smash the like button on your way out because, engagement and all. Thanks, Angie. Thanks, Kyle. Thank you, Iris. If she throws her bottle at him, And he raises his arm in self-defense. She can prove it. Yep. Anne says pattern recognition is a compilation of knowledge. We all use it naturally. Thank you. Wanda, thanks for the Canadian 10, was infuriated and outraged. Outright. Anne thought it stunk of ageism and exploiting her kind nature. Thank you, Wanda, for your thoughts. Decline. Thank you for the 5. Michael, thanks for the 10. If you didn't see it, how can you be sure? Are you sure you want to make that argument, Commonwealth? Apply that to your own case and then dismiss these charges. Yeah. Free Karen Reed 2024. Thanks for the 10. Need some more likes, guys. So please get those likes up. I don't know how many we're up to now, but I think we had at one point, we had 10,000 people watching, and maybe for the afternoon, we're up to like 9,000. And I don't know what the like count is right now, but it needs to be higher than what it is. I'm just a girl in the world. Thank you for your 5. It says it hurts my heart watching this cross. She's brilliant and deserves the respect she's earned. Thank you, Christy Mel, for your 10. Hank can't hold Dr. Russell's book bag, she says. Kimmy, he can't forensics withheld evidence. Michelle, thanks for the 5. Bevs keeps saying it's a new trial, but she's being crossed on the last one. Yeah. Amber, thanks for the 10. Hank is officially worse than Lally and isn't even during the actual trial. No, the jury wasn't even there. This did not come across as a smart approach to me. Am I missing something? I think he's trying to show his bite a little bit because it's the first time anybody's seen him in court in this case from the defense team, questioning a witness. So we're getting to see a taste of his style. But it's an acquired taste. B-May, thanks for the 5. In YSL, they allowed testimony as an expert just because he watched Boys in the Hood. This is insane. That's insane. Thank you, Mad World. Thank you, Nina. Thank you, Decorated Dude. Good citizen. Why would anyone say yes unless they saw it? Yep. Martha thinks he's rude. Thanks for the 5. Terry, thanks for the 10. She's a scientist, and scientists never speak in absolutes. That's true. She's right about the way she testified the first time, and the defense needs to address that. Do they have a rebuttal? Probably they will. But also, nobody's opinion in any trial is ever 100% absolute. It's with a reasonable degree of medical certainty or scientific certainty. And that's the way it is. So yeah, I agree. I think they do have a rebuttal, and we'll have to see that. We'll have to wait for January 7th for that at 9 a.m. Mark your calendars. Proctor did not collect the socks. Moon Goddess, he left them at the hospital. How's that for a Boston accent? Whatever, clever. Would you prefer your expert to stick to the same opinion from the first trial to avoid flip-flop, or to honestly offer a more refined, firmer explanation? Well, last time she didn't have a lot of time to prepare. She may have also been provided with more materials since the last trial. So, a lot of time has passed. And I think that it's okay for her to firm up her opinion. And that I think that explanation was perfectly reasonable too. That in medicine, we learn that not everything is 100%. And so, yeah, my opinion is stronger because now I know that I'm testifying to a reasonable degree of medical certainty here. Moon Goddess, thanks for Proctor didn't collect the socks. They were never tested. I don't think they were. Stephanie, I think we addressed this. Thank you. Oh, sweetie, no. We have that picture of John O'Keefe's socks still on his feet in the hospital. Thank you. Thanks for the 5. Lady Di, thanks for the 10. I was bitten by a dog 2 years. No, I do not want to see your pictures. No, please do not send me your pictures. No. Thank you, though. Kyle, yep. She said months to review. That's why she's more certain. I agree. Not a fireman, but I know a burn when I see one. That's a good point. Well done, my friend. Well done. Thank you, Sherilyn. Says an afternoon of Brennan demands a latte. Thank you very much. Paige, thank you so much for your Venmo. And Tara, thank you so much. You guys are awesome. And I think there was a couple of people from this morning. Donna, thanks for the Cash App. Do we get college credits for Dr. Russell's teaching? Andrea, thanks for the Cash App. Says Alessi is amazing with Cannone. Glad he's on board. Justin, thank you very much. Ronald says he loves me. Thanks for the Venmo. Cheryl loves Mark and I together. Thank you for the Venmo. And I think I thanked everybody else. Nancy, Heather, Jamie, you're awesome. Thanks, you guys. This was a long one today. If anybody that I forgot to thank, I'll thank you in the comments. So thank you guys for hanging in there for I don't know, like almost 3 hours this afternoon, like 4 hours this morning. That was agonizing. The decorated dude. Commonwealth has reached a new level of disgusting and disingenuity. Well, what the duck, my friends? What the duck? Do you guys want to do a cupcake invasion? Galera calls him Pee Wee Herman, spot on. Thank you. Thank you, Free Karen Read 2020, for that. Long, expensive, unnecessary, and what the duck? What the duck? I thought it was kind of crazy, but you know, we're here for it because we're always here for it, aren't we? I don't know. I don't know if anybody's live anywhere. We're just gonna go. We're just gonna go, you guys. Have a great night. Well, I'm sure I'll see you tomorrow with something. You guys want to go over Luigi? I think we need to talk about Luigi. Luigi Mangione, Cyber Chicken Boston. Thanks for the 5. With all due respect, Your Honor, I request a refund. Hashtag taxpayer. Well done. Thank you, moderators, for keeping it so classy. I don't know if that's a new Boone letter or if that is what she said at her sentencing, but it's just handwritten. So I'm not quite sure because I started reading it and it looked like exactly what she read at her sentencing. So need a little clarity on that, whether that's actually a new letter or it's just become part of the court record now as what she read during the sentencing. So let me know. Let me know what you want to talk about. Put it in the comments so I'll read them later because I'm exhausted. I'm sure you're exhausted too. Thanks, moderators. You guys are the best. I love you with all my heart. I couldn't do this without you. Everyone smash the like on your way out. Thanks for being cupcakes and thanks for hanging out with me all day. Peace, my friends. Peace. Stay cool, stay kind, stay classy. It's not hard. I promise it is so not hard. Love you guys. Good night.